Chapter 142. Jiang Li's heart sank. He actually didn't want to face cultivators, but as a student of Starry Sky University, this was a fact he had to face. Even now, he couldn't refuse. It was a big deal that cultivators had captured a student. No wonder everyone wanted to rescue him. On the Emperor's Star, human warships would often launch sneak attacks on cultivators' territory, and cultivators would also launch sneak attacks on human students. Both sides have been engaged in fierce wars and assassinations all year round. Cultivators were not beasts. They were like humans, intelligent life forms, and also humans. When the two sides fought, humans definitely couldn't let their guard down. The captured student is called LV Jean, a senior student. He is very strong and has a vitality of 4. But he ran into a group of cultivator experts, and his mecha was destroyed, and he was captured alive. Ji Qingwu turned on the optical computer, and the big screen appeared. She continued. The group of cultivators wants to take him to the depths of the Qian Empire for interrogation. The school has issued a mission to rescue this person. What if we can't rescue him? Jiang Li heard the hidden meaning in Ji Qingwu's words. If we can't rescue him, then kill LV Jean. Ji Qingwu's tone was icy cold. Once those cultivators capture him and bring him into the Qian country and let the experts study his mind and soul, they will soon obtain a lot of the technology of humans on Earth. This way, the native cultivators will develop. In the past, cultivators looked down on our human technology and suffered many losses. Now, they are gradually paying attention to it. They have begun to capture our students, hypnotize them, and let them study technology. The school rules state that any student who is captured and has no hope of escaping will either be rescued or killed. It's the same for us. So in this mission, we must not let the cultivators capture him. The mission points and rewards for rescuing LV Jean and killing LV Jean are still different, so it's best to rescue him. Lei Zheng added, when we go there, we may encounter a large number of cultivators, and there may even be cultivators with magical equipment. We have to be careful. As soon as we meet, we will kill them and not give them a chance to react. Every time we kill or capture a cultivator alive, we'll also get a lot of rewards and points. These cultivators are very useful for the scientific research of mankind. These cultivators have a shortcoming, and that is that their flying speed is not good. They can't compare to battleships or even mechas. Only the strongest cultivators have the power to destroy a warship. We have to be careful of their flying swords. A senior student was formulating a strategy. Half an hour later, after confirming the location, they entered the battleship and started flying. The battleship must fly to the upper atmosphere so that it won't be discovered by cultivators. At the same time, it can avoid being attacked by magical equipment. When the time comes, we'll wear the mecha and fly down. Our agility will increase, and we can also avoid the attacks of magic treasures. But the warship will have to stay in the sky. I heard that a while ago, the seemingly powerful Big River team encountered a cultivator. The other party took out a magic treasure and easily destroyed the battleship. The whole team was wiped out. Inside the battleship, Lei Zheng put on the sonic speed mecha. His body didn't look bloated at all. Instead, he looked very heroic. In the team, everyone was equipped with this type of sonic mecha. Only Jiang Li was empty. Even Luohan and Serene got a set of sonic speed mecha. Jiang Li, don't you have a mecha? Luohan asked. No. Jiang Li didn't rely on external objects recently. With the Great Emperor's relic, he could do anything easily. Battleships and mechas couldn't compare to this small stone. Unlike the other students, although they couldn't afford a battleship, the sonic speed mecha was necessary. You can't afford a mecha? Ji Qingwu asked curiously. But you're a new student. No wonder you can't afford one. I provided Luohan's mecha and Serene's mecha. It's a temporary loan. After all, this mecha is expensive. Ordinary students don't have the support of their families, so it's hard to buy one with their own strength. Forget it. You can't do without a mecha for the mission. I happen to have a spare mecha here. You can take it. Thank you. Jiang Li took the mecha from Ji Qingwu. This mecha was not made of metal. It was very light, but it was very sturdy and hard to destroy. It was made of the most advanced technology of the human race. Its entire body was silver gray in color. After wearing it, one would look even more spirited and majestic. Ji Qingwu could casually take out a sonic speed mecha to lend to others. It showed that she was a powerful person. Sonic speed mecha is indeed good. It's a pity I can't smuggle it out. Otherwise, I could smuggle a few more to the black market of Suhua City. Wouldn't I be invincible then? Jiang Li thought. The Sun and Moon Corporation is going to launch a large-scale invasion again. I'm afraid Dahe and the others can't stop them. Everything in Star Sky University was cheap. The only drawback was that no one could take it out. Every student had to go through a wormhole jump. They were not allowed to bring any contraband, not to mention mechas. All right, don't I have a storage space? When I go back and buy a few mechas and some resources, they won't be able to be checked. Let's see how the Sun and Moon Corporation can fight me then. Zhang Li suddenly had an idea. Rumble. The entire battleship flew up into the sky. The airflow was violent, and the battleship kept shaking. Zhang Li looked outside through the optical computer screen. He saw that in the sky, where the atmosphere was strong, the violent airflow seemed to be roaring, as if it was going to tear the battleship into pieces. This storm was too violent. Even metal could be torn into powder. Humans would be badly mutilated when they flew into the sky. Natural wind blades cut the battleship, creating many metal sparks. However, the battleship wasn't damaged at all. This showed how powerful the human battleship was. Last time, Jiang Tian's battleship didn't fly high enough. Therefore, it was destroyed by the golden hand formed by the artifact. If it flew into the atmosphere, this would never happen. Such a violent storm was enough to blow away the golden hand and dissipate the energy. Track, position, target, lock, chase. The entire battleship radiated a kind of electric wave, searching for signs of human activities within a few hundred kilometers. It wouldn't let go of any clues. In a valley, the mottled shadows of trees were reflected on the gurgling stream. Occasionally, there were a few insects and birds chirping. It was very tranquil. 7 fire god birds suddenly descended from the sky. There was a person riding on the back of each fire god bird. These people were wearing classical clothes. Their temperament was incompatible with modern civilization. They were obviously the natives of the Imperial Star. However, each of them was an expert. The leading expert jumped down from the back of the fire god bird. He was holding a person in his hand. This person's clothes were tattered, and there were many bloodstains. However, one could vaguely tell that he was wearing the uniform of the Star Sky University. It was obvious that he was a student of the Star Sky University. He looked ferocious. It was obvious that he had suffered a lot in the hands of this group of people. Senior Brother Nya, why do we stop? The extraterrestrial demons have something called the battleship. It can fly many times faster than the fire god bird. It can catch up with us. We have to return to the great Qian Empire's territory immediately. A girl said anxiously. She gestured to the man in the lead. The man in the lead was called Senior Brother Nya by everyone. Let's take a rest. The fire god bird must be tired after flying for so long. If we continue flying, it will run out of energy. Senior Brother Nya waved his hand. With a plop, the captured Star Sky University student was thrown to the ground. Abominable demon. When the woman saw this student, she became even angrier. She slashed out with her sword, cutting off the student's wrist. Blood sprayed out, but the student moved slightly and the blood immediately stopped. This showed that he had great control over his blood. Tell me, devil, why did you rape and kill my junior sister? The girl was about to slash him with her sword, but was stopped by Senior Brother Nya. Don't kill him. He's still useful. When we capture him, we can make him hand over that thing called technology. It will make our empire stronger. Of course, he alone is not enough. We need to capture more devils and learn about them. But there are people in the empire who oppose us doing this. Another disciple stood up. Although our dean supports learning about the extraterrestrial demons, the Grand Imperial Advisor, Great General King, and even His Majesty the Emperor and some princes oppose developing that thing called technology because it will shake the foundation of the empire. Short-sighted, those people in the imperial court are all short-sighted. This thing called technology is indeed powerful and can make the empire develop rapidly. However, the rapid development of the empire will shake the rule of the imperial court. They don't want to give up their power, so they close the country and refuse to make any progress. Alas, now that the devils are invading, we must do everything possible to strengthen ourselves. Senior brother Nye sighed. But, senior brother, if we learn the evil art of the extraterrestrial demons called technology, will it really be like what the imperial court said, that we will fall into the devil's path, beyond redemption? The girl said worriedly. Also, this devil raped and killed my junior sister. I can't wait to kill him right now. After saying that, she seemed to be still angry. She stepped forward and kicked the student a few more times. The student endured it and didn't make a sound. There is no evil art. If we use it righteously, it is righteous. If we use it evil, it is evil. If we fall into the devil's path, I will bear it alone. Even if we are beyond redemption, we will protect our brothers and sisters. Senior brother Nye's eyes emitted a sharp, cold light. He looked at the captured disciple of Starry Sky University. Your name is LV Jean, isn't it? You are insane. You captured my junior sister. Why did you rape and kill her? I know that you extraterrestrial demons have another name, humans on Earth. You follow the law and morality. What you have done is also unpardonable according to the law of humans on Earth. You can be sentenced to death. Senior brother Nye's words were enough to prove that he was very familiar with humans on Earth. Humph! You bunch of natives, do you know what the law is? You are the target of our plunder and conquest. You are a lowly civilization. The only way out is to become our slaves. LV Jin's expression was very disdainful, as if he was looking at a lowly creature. That junior sister of yours, after I caught her, she dared to resist. I will let her have a taste of the most painful thing in the world. So what if she raped and killed her? Also, let me tell you, our battleship will be here soon. With your little ability, you can't surpass the speed of the battleship with a fire divine bird. Still so stubborn after being caught by me. Senior brother Nye's face was expressionless. The evil art of technology of you humans is indeed powerful, but your bullshit mecha was destroyed by my flying sword, and I captured you alive. You are provoking me now because you want me to kill you. But I won't do that. You still have many uses. When we return to the academy, I will make you our slave and let you have a taste of life worse than death. Haha, in your dreams. A bunch of natives from a lowly civilization wants to study the technology of humans on Earth? What a joke. Do you know that our civilization on Earth has gone through many industrial revolutions? Even if we give you technology, you will not dare to accept it out of fear. Moreover, it seems that even your emperor is against it. LV Jean laughed, not the slightest bit afraid. Chapter 143. I admit that the Da Qian Empire is a backward civilization. You extraterrestrial demons, no, you humans on Earth are very powerful. But one day, we will surpass you. Brother Nye wasn't angry when he heard LV Jin's words. He was as calm as an ancient well, with confidence and elegance. Apparently, he was a peerless genius who had been trained by a big shot. Ha, that's funny. In your dreams. LV Jin laughed and looked into the distance. My companions are here. You could just wait for your death. Rumble. There was a roar deep in the atmosphere. It sounded like thunder. Brother Nye and the others looked up and their expressions changed. They vaguely saw a shadow appearing in the atmosphere like a giant fish. Even flying swords couldn't reach such a height. Stand by and be on guard. Brother Nye was calm in the face of danger. He drew a circle and air currents surged, forming an aura field. It was obvious that his vitality was extraordinary. Target found. 100 kilometers below, there are 7 cultivators in the jungle. LV Jean is one of them. Deep in the atmosphere, many light spots were jumping on the screen of the starfish battleship. They then expanded and showed everything on the ground clearly. Get ready to leave the cabin. Jump down from the sky and use the mecha to maintain balance. Be careful, don't stay in the atmosphere for too long. Even a mecha at the speed of sound can't handle it if you stay too long. Lei Zheng stood up and said. Ji Qingwu, Luohan, and Serene also stood up. Everyone was ready, including Jiang Li. This was the first time he had fought against a cultivator. He was looking forward to it, but he also had an indescribable feeling. The cabin door opened, the wind howled, and the entire battleship shook violently. Everyone flew down together. Immediately, Zhongli saw a vast sea of wind surging around. The wind blades cut the mecha and made crisp sounds, as if countless flying swords were cutting it. If it was a body, it would have been smashed into pieces in an instant. Jiang Li's body spun like a boat in a tsunami. He didn't know where he was going. Full speed, he began piloting the mecha, and the mecha accelerated downwards. 1 minute later, they were finally out of the atmosphere. Instantly, their bodies felt relaxed. The mech's eyes were made of a type of transparent material. There were also lenses in them, allowing them to zoom in and out clearly. They could also use signals to communicate with others. Jiang Li had long since learned how to operate a mech, so it was a walk in the park for him. A mech flew in front of him. It was Ji Qingwu. Jiang Li, land quickly. Intercept those 7 people from the west and cut off their retreat. Okay, Jiang Li agreed readily. The 11 hypersonic mechas descended rapidly and landed in the forest in an instant. They surrounded Senior Brother Nye and the others from all directions and tightened the encirclement. In the end, the distance between the two parties shrunk to about a square kilometer in the jungle. Senior Brother Nye stepped on Lu Jin's body, and the other 6 stood back to back, ready for battle. The fire god bird had already flown into the sky, far away. They knew that relying on the fire god bird was useless. Facing the speed of the extraterrestrial demon, flying on the fire god bird would be even more dangerous. Kacha kacha! Jiang Li and the others in their mechas slowly approached, but they all felt the powerful aura released by Senior Brother Nye and couldn't help but stop. Lu Jin, are you okay? Lei Zheng asked, his eyes fixed on Senior Brother Nye. I'm fine. These natives don't dare to kill me. They want to take me to their place to work for them and learn our technology. Lu Jin's voice was sharp. Kill them. Extraterrestrial demons. You are really haunting us. One of the female disciples looked sullen. She raised her long sword and was ready to fight. The long sword was faintly shining. It seemed to be a flying sword. This group of disciples was obviously more powerful than the group from last time. They were of high quality, especially this Senior Brother Nye. His life force was very high. Jiang Li couldn't see the changes at all. This group of people is not ordinary. They are not afraid of our mechas. We have to be careful. Jiang Li was secretly vigilant. He was ready to use the milky white stone at any time. What's your name? Lei Zheng took a step forward. How dare you capture a student of Starry Sky University? I'm afraid you won't even know how you died in the end. Haha. Senior Brother Nye let out an earth-shattering roar. Even the clouds were scattered. What do we dare not do? I call you extraterrestrial demons. You call us natives of an inferior civilization. There is an irreconcilable blood feud between us. Do you really think that your technology can summon the wind and summon the rain? Dominate the world? You have an imposing manner. In all fairness, with your temperament, you will definitely be an excellent student in our Starry Sky University. Unfortunately, you are a native and stubborn. Even if you are ambitious, you can't compete with the technology of our entire civilization. Ji Qingwu stood up and said coldly. All of a sudden, a gun magically appeared in her hand. She pointed it forward at an extremely fast speed, dazzling everyone's eyes. Bang! A bullet shot out, piercing through the sky. There was no way to avoid it. It went straight for Senior Brother Nye's forehead. This was a nuclear warhead. It had a tracking function. It was extremely fast and could also be activated to explode. The power was enough to flatten a building. Even if the opponent used a flying sword to block it, the explosion of the bullet could even destroy the flying sword. God power. At this moment, Senior Brother Nye stretched out his palm. Immediately, countless vortexes appeared on his palm. These vortexes were not air currents, but a kind of god power. They were pitch black and aimed at the trajectory of the bullet. The bullet shot into the black hole and disappeared. In the next moment, the black vortexes disappeared. A crystal appeared in Senior Brother Nye's palm. The crystal was the size of a palm and sealed the bullet. Everything in the bullet was frozen, and the self-destruction program had been disintegrated. Your technology is not very good. Our God power can restrain it. This God power is called the Qian Kuan Seal. It takes the Qi of the Qian Kuan's 6 directions, the 9 Nines arcane art, the De Yin Seal, and the shackles of law. When the 3 combine into one, any ghost or god can be sealed. Senior Brother Nie's eyes emitted a strong, murderous intent, and there was a surging wind and clouds around his body. You probably think that I, Nie Wanxiong, only have a flying sword. A powerful energy rose from behind him and condensed into a tall god with 3 heads and 6 arms. This god opened the vertical eye between his eyebrows and shot forward. Zap, zap, zap. The vertical eye shot out something like a laser. When the ground was hit, the soil turned into ashes. God power? Sacred fetus. Ji Qingwu was shocked, and her whole body was trembling. She never expected that Nie Wanxiong actually had a sacred fetus in his body, a godlike thing condensed by a huge energy body. This kind of thing was not something a mecha could compare to. A strong person who had formed a sacred fetus and was in the embryonic breathing realm had the power to dominate the world with every move. In human society, this kind of person could fight for 3,000 miles alone and block millions of people with a sword. This kind of person had a vitality of 2 digits. Go quickly. Lei Zheng roared and retreated. You are obviously not an expert in the embryonic breathing realm. How can you have a sacred fetus in your body? Is it strange? The god behind Nie Wanxiong was getting bigger and bigger, and the energy body was domineering. It actually had a trace of the aura of the martial arts ancestor Ba Liming that Jiang Li had seen in the exam. My master knew that the power of the extraterrestrial demons was getting stronger, so he used the supreme infusion technique to condense a sacred fetus in my body, a second primordial spirit. You call this thing an energy body, but we call it a second primordial spirit. Although this sacred fetus is temporary and will wither soon after being used too much, it is still enough to deal with you. Rumble. The god behind him made a move. A hand grabbed over fiercely, and with a flash, it completely surpassed the speed of sound. This attack was aimed at Lei Zheng. Go. Everyone, go quickly. We have fallen into a trap. Lei Zheng had long flown up and retreated. However, the speed of the god was too fast. It wrapped Nie Wanxiong's body and flew rapidly. At this moment, Nie Wanxiong was like an unparalleled strong person wrapped in a devil. He flew and ran, completely surpassing the speed of Sound Mecha. Bang! The huge god's palm hit Lei Zheng's speed of Sound Mecha. The entire speed of Sound Mecha let out a roar and disintegrated inch by inch. It was completely destroyed by the palm. Then, Lei Zheng fell from the sky. He spat out blood and fainted on the ground. At this moment, Nie Wanxiong's body made a rapid turn and attacked Ji Qingwu again. He could already see that among the students of Cosmic Star University, the core members were Lei Zheng and Ji Qingwu. If these two were taken down, the others would completely collapse and lose confidence. Bang, 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 bang. Ji Qingwu didn't panic in the face of danger. She kept firing the nuclear gun in her hand, hoping to destroy the sacred fetus energy body. However, it was useless. No matter how many bullets were fired, the energy god just waved its hand and used a divine ability to seal the bullets, making them completely useless. Whoosh! The long god's arm grabbed over and slapped Ji Qingwu's body. The speed of Sound Mecha immediately disintegrated. She also spat out blood and fell to the ground, unconscious. Luohan, Serene, let's go. Jiang Li had already noticed the danger and started to retreat. Moreover, Lei Zheng and Ji Qingwu had bought time for them to escape. With a thought, he controlled Luohan and Serene to fly toward him. The 3 of them gathered together to escape. Otherwise, if they were defeated separately, it would be even more difficult to deal with the aftermath. At this time, the 3 of them had already flown far away, and the remaining students also scattered like birds and beasts, flying in all directions. A few students even flew toward the sky. They wanted to return to the battleship, and used the power of the battleship to resist the powerful sacred fetus energy body. These students are finished. Zhongli shook his head. Nier and Xiong let out a long roar and flew up rapidly. In an instant, he caught up to the students, flying toward the battleship. The three-headed and six-armed god captured them one by one, crushed all the speed of sound mecha, and threw them to the ground. Except for Zhongli, Luohan, and Serene, all the students were captured. Nie Wanqiong's eyes targeted Zhongli again, and he chased after him fiercely. Zhongli was extremely agile. He knew that with the speed of sound mecha, he would definitely be caught. Once he was caught, there was no way he could survive. Whoosh! At this time, he didn't hide anymore. He quickly opened the space and enveloped Luohan and Serene. Then he entered the space and disappeared in an instant. A stone flew through the air at 5 times the speed of sound, instantly escaping from Nie Wanqiong's pursuit. Nie Wanqiong had just caught up to here, but Zhongli had already left quickly. Dharma treasure? He was a little surprised and didn't continue to chase. Instead, he stayed in the air, his eyes flashing with a strange light. It's a legendary Dharma treasure with a grotto heaven. Chapter 144. Completely annihilated. In the wilderness, the white stone landed, space flashed, and the figures of Jiang Li and the other two appeared under a towering tree. Serene and Luohan were still a little dazed. They sat on the grass in the silver mecha, their eyes blurred. Jiang Li looked at them, and there was only one word left in his mind. Completely annihilated. No one expected that there was a holy fetus in Nie Wanqiong's body. Although it was only the second primordial spirit of a peerless master and would gradually wither without energy replenishment, at least it was now invincible and could easily destroy a sonic mecha. Jiang Li, how did we escape? At this moment, Luohan and Serene seemed to wake up from a dream. They didn't know what had happened. At the moment of the accident, they moved closer to Jiang Li in a daze, and then they only felt the wind and clouds surging, desperately trying to escape. When they regained consciousness, they found themselves on the ground. It was because Jiang Li had hypnotized them to prevent them from discovering the mystery of the milky white stone. This stone contained space and contained essence. It was the most tyrannical emperor's pearl in the universe. Once it was leaked, there would be a great disaster, and it would not be a good thing for Luohan and Serene. Let's not talk about this first. We escaped with the help of a magic weapon given by the mentor. Jiang Li pushed the blame to Hong Heiyu and changed the topic. This time we were completely annihilated. We must find a way to save people. Save people? How? Serene shuddered. That Nie Wanqiong is too strong. Even a mentor may not be a match for him. What can we do? You guys leave here quickly and contact the mentor. I will keep an eye on them. Jiang Li said. This group of people can't go far. Nie Wanqiong's holy fetus is not cultivated by himself. There are many drawbacks. I may be able to find a way to save people. Will it be dangerous for you to go alone? This matter is too serious. Let's inform Starry Sky University first. Serene felt that Jiang Li's behavior was a little impulsive. I have the artifact given to me by my mentor. It should be able to solve this urgent problem. Moreover, if Nie Wanqiong captures Ji Qingwu, Lei Zheng, and the others and forces them to reveal the method to operate the warship and obtain that starfish warship, things will become so serious that it will be impossible to stop. Luohan and Serene were both quick-witted. After thinking about it for a while, they knew that the situation was urgent. Originally, he thought that this group of Emperor Star natives wouldn't be able to fly fast, so he could slow things down and discuss countermeasures calmly. But now, it seemed that he couldn't do that. Nie Wanqiong's cultivation was invincible, and he seemed to understand some of the technology of humans on Earth. He was open-minded. If he understood how to operate a warship, he could obtain one and bring it back to the Qian Empire to study human technology. I really shouldn't have asked you to come. Luohan's expression was gloomy, full of self-blame. I thought that with the help of the warship, this operation would be foolproof. I only asked you to come so that you could earn points and get together with everyone. I didn't expect that I would drag you down instead. Bang, bang, bang. No, fortunately, you asked me to come. Otherwise, you would have been in trouble today. Zhongli thought about it and felt a wave of fear. If he hadn't come today, they would definitely have been captured alive and ended up miserable. And he would still be in the university, unaware of what happened. When Xueling heard his words, she raised her head abruptly. Her beautiful eyes flashed with light, making her look very clever. But Luohan was still frowning, her face full of self-blame. "I'm leaving." Zhongli didn't say much. He jumped up and glided away. "Zhongli, be careful. Just observe from afar and wait for the university to send someone over." Luohan shouted from behind him. "Got it. Don't worry about me." Zhongli had already disappeared into the depths of the dense forest. His voice came from afar, sounding a little unreal. Luohan and Serene immediately flew up and headed toward the Star Sky University. At the same time, they started to send a distress signal through the optical computer chip, explaining the cause of the incident. Zhongli saw them leave through the spirit radiation. He opened the Grand Emperor's Relic's dimension again and quietly flew up. 5 times the speed of sound was enough to successfully escape Niao Wanxiong's pursuit. He could also take the opportunity to see if he could find an opportunity to defeat Niao Wanxiong. However, he wouldn't act rashly. Niao Wanxiong's mystique, the Qian Kuan seal, could even seal bullets. If the Grand Emperor's relic was sealed, wouldn't he be walking right into a trap? He flew through the air and quietly approached the scene of the incident. "Those people haven't left yet?" The rock stopped at the top of a large tree, and Zhongli quietly observed it. Sure enough, Niao Wanxiong was still sitting in the clearing in the forest. The other 6 men and women looked excited. They used ropes to tie up the Star Sky University students. Some were even knocked unconscious, leaving only the 2 leaders, Ji Qingwu and Lei Zhong. "How do you feel about this?" Niao Wanxiong stood up and paced. "You think you are high-level Ming realm cultivators, but you were captured by us low-level Ming realm cultivators. Don't you feel aggrieved? What do you want?" Lei Zhong was still clear-headed and calm. "Nothing. I still have something I want." Niao Wanxiong pointed to the sky. "Let the battleship land. Although I don't know how to operate it, I know it's expensive and powerful. It can travel through the astral winds. It's a good thing. The Academy wants it. Don't even think about it. We'd rather destroy this battleship than let you have it." Ji Qingwu's face was cold. She wouldn't compromise. "Really? Then I will make you wish you were dead." Niao Wanxiong walked over and stared coldly at Ji Qingwu's beautiful face. "Your companion is called LV Jean. He raped and killed my junior sister. A girl who kept her chastity was brutally raped and killed by him. This is a blood feud. If you don't want to, I will ask my junior brother to rape and kill you now." Ji Qingwu's expression changed. She knew that this wasn't a threat. There was a blood feud between the Aboriginals and the humans on Earth. "What? Are you scared? Then summon the battleship and let me control it. Don't play any tricks. Our people have already infiltrated Starry Sky University, and even some of the higher-ups are among them. They have also obtained some information. I have some understanding of the battleship's performance." Niao Wanxiong didn't touch Ji Qingwu, as if to maintain his identity. There was no evil in his eyes. "No way." Ji Qingwu's attitude was still tough. "Junior brother Su, do it." Niao Wanxiong glanced at Ji Qingwu and then turned to a square-faced man. "We will treat our junior sister the same way the demon from outer space treated her." "Senior brother Nya, but..." Junior brother Su hesitated. "Our academy is righteous and righteous. If we do evil things, wouldn't we be the same as the demons? I can't do this." Sigh. Niao Wanxiong sighed. "Our academy does abide by the righteous path, but we are restricted in every way. In the eyes of outsiders, we are pedantic. Senior brother Nya, let's take these people to the academy and let the dean deal with them." Another girl said, "Or we can force them to land the battleship in other ways. We have a lot of torture methods. These students can bear it. I'm afraid torture won't work. We can only destroy their minds. But I can't control her with my spiritual cultivation." Senior brother Nya pointed at Ji Qingwu and said, "Your spiritual cultivation is at the Deshang state, right?" Ji Qingwu suddenly opened her eyes and sneered. "Sorry, I'm also at the Deshang state, so your hypnosis won't work on me. Don't even think about it. Also, our teachers will be here soon. If you dare to do anything to me, you will die. Are you threatening me? Hee hee, your spiritual power isn't as strong as mine, so I have some confidence in controlling you. Since you are so stubborn, I will give it a try. Don't regret it if I break your brain. Nie Wanxiong's tone was cold. No matter what, I won't compromise. Ji Qingwu was tied up, but her aura was like a sharp sword. She wasn't moved at all. Also, don't be too proud. If you push me too hard, I will summon the battleship and we will die together. The battleship has a self-destruct system to prevent it from falling into your hands. Then let me see if you are telling the truth. Nie Wanxiong's eyes suddenly emitted a sharp, cold light. Nie Wanxiong, let's talk. Why do you have to do this? At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded from afar. Jiangli. Hearing this voice, Ji Qingwu and Lei Zheng's eyes widened in shock. They finally realized how powerful Jiangli was. He had actually escaped from their pursuit and dared to come back to talk to Nie Wanxiong. Swoosh! Nie Wanxiong flew up, and in the next moment, he arrived at the location where the voice came from. It was a tall tree, but he found that there was no one there. The voice came from another place. Brother Wanxiong, why don't we have a good talk? Rumble. Nie Wanxiong flew up again and swept out with his palm force, smashing the tree. However, he still didn't find any traces of Jiangli. He let out a long roar and flew into the distance. He flew for over 10 kilometers and landed beside a lake. He saw Jiangli standing on the other side of the lake, and there seemed to be ripples flashing around him. As expected, you have the legendary Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure. Nie Wanxiong's expression changed. Only our Academy's 1,000 Miles Universe painting has this kind of Dharma treasure. As far as I know, you humans on Earth haven't mastered the space-folding technology. He didn't dare to act rashly. He was obviously very wary of the Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure. If Jiangli had hidden some trump card in it, he would die here. Jiangli also didn't dare to act rashly. The Great Emperor's relic only had the ability to store items and fly. It might not be able to gain the upper hand against Nie Wanxiong's sacred fetus. Even 5 times the speed of sound couldn't do anything to the other party. Because the other party had the ability to seal bullets, it seemed like he could also seal the Great Emperor's relic. You also know about space-folding technology? Jiangli was taken aback. These new terms coming out of Nie Wanxiong's mouth were really a bit out of place. In his eyes, Nie Wanxiong was an ancient person from 1,000 years ago. Their civilization was indeed a feudal society. I told you, I more or less know a little about your technology. Nie Wanxiong stood on the shore, naturally emitting an imposing aura. But I didn't expect there to be someone like you among the students of Starry Sky University. You actually have a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure. It's really beyond my expectations. Do you want to negotiate with me to let go of your companion? Or do you want to stall for time and wait for rescue? It's both. Jiangli didn't hide it and admitted frankly, let go. If you leave now, there's still a chance of survival. Even if you take a battleship, you won't be able to run far. Every student of Starry Sky University is very precious. The mentors are rushing over on battleships and will be here soon. I want to see what kind of tyrannical figures you humans have. Nie Wanxiong didn't retreat in fear. He stood with his hands behind his back and said sternly, besides, you have capable people. Don't tell me our great Qian Academy doesn't have experts. It seems like there's going to be a big battle. Big battle? Jiang Li's heart trembled. He knew that things had probably gotten out of hand. Perhaps Nie Wanxiong was just a chess piece. The great Qian Empire wanted to attract the experts of Starry Sky University and then eliminate them in one fell swoop. Otherwise, the people of Great Qian Academy wouldn't have planted the sacred fetus in his body. Firstly, this kind of sacred fetus planting was extremely dangerous. Nie Wanxiong's life would also be in danger during the process of accepting it. Secondly, the person who planted it would also suffer great losses. He might even lose control of the energy and explode into pieces. Could it be that this is a big conspiracy? Jiang Li's heart sank. Chapter 145. Time passed by bit. Jiang Li and Nie Wanxiong were facing each other, separated by a lake. Neither of them dared to act rashly. They confronted each other like this for about half an hour. There was no movement in the air at all. Zhongli knew that something was wrong. Why didn't the Cosmic Star University teachers come in half an hour? With the speed of the Hong Heiyu warship, it would only take 10 minutes to travel 30,000 kilometers. And now, they were only 10,000 kilometers away from the human base. So many students had been arrested, and it was urgent. If the teachers still didn't come in half an hour, it was really strange. Are you wondering why the people from the Cosmic Star University still haven't come after so long? Nia Wanxiong said, "They know this is a trap, so they won't come. Your companions are all abandoned." Impossible. Zhongli was shocked and then shook his head firmly. Nothing is impossible. Nia Wanxiong clasped his hands behind his back as if he didn't want to waste any more time with Zhongli. Remember, your school will abandon your students, but our academy won't abandon any students. This is the difference. Although you are from a higher civilization, you have lost your humanity and only care about benefits. Although we are from a lower civilization, we are still humans. If that's the case, I'll rescue my companions by myself. Zhang Li's eyes flashed. He knew that the situation was urgent, and he couldn't waste any time. Although you have a grotto heaven-level treasure, you can't unleash its power. I advise you not to do anything in vain. Nia Wanxiong stretched his hand from his back to his chest and started to form a seal. This seal was very strange. The upper hand floated like the sky, and the lower hand sank like the earth. One sky and one earth, repeating each other, representing the overturning of the world. Once the seal was formed, Zhongli instantly felt like the world was turning upside down and his head was dizzy. He immediately used the brain of the universe. His thoughts flashed, and all the distracting thoughts were instantly eliminated, replaced by a clear mind. Oh, your mind is very strong, and you're also in the great meditation realm, but I have never seen such a powerful great meditation master. Nia Wanxiong was stunned. He didn't expect Jiang Li to be unaffected at all. Right? I can also hypnotize people. An idea flashed in Jiang Li's mind. Nia Wanxiong's cultivation level was very high, and his vitality was very strong. It should be 5 or 6. His cultivation had also stabilized. Originally, at the same realm, the impact of the spirit wouldn't have any effect and could be resolved. However, Jiang Li was different. He cultivated the brain of the universe, and his spiritual energy was 10 times that of someone at the same realm. Back then, Chu Shan could only hypnotize 200 to 300 people a day, while he could hypnotize 3,000 people. The difference was like heaven and earth. All of a sudden, he let out a series of sounds. They weren't loud, so much so that even if someone was standing next to Jiang Li, they wouldn't be able to hear them. However, they pierced into Nia Wanxiong's head like an arc of lightning. Instantly, Nia Wanxiong felt his entire body go numb, as if he had been struck by lightning. He couldn't move his arms or legs, and hallucinations appeared in front of him. Looking down, he saw numerous lightning chains on his body. Spirit illusion. Nia Wanxiong immediately formed a seal with his hands. However, his body was frozen and he couldn't form a seal. This was a great shock. 10,000 miles of rivers and mountains. Rumble. He started to meditate. A majestic picture appeared in his mind. It was a picturesque scene of 10,000 miles of rivers and mountains. Everyone lived and worked in peace, and the world was at peace. Cranes danced in the Golden Age. It was a magnificent scene. I wish for the world to be at peace, and for all generations to live in peace. My country and the people's country. The picture of meditation appeared directly and clashed with Jiang Li's mind. It actually eliminated all the lightning illusions and counterattacked. A picturesque scene appeared in front of Jiang Li. He seemed to have become one of the people of the world, intoxicated by the picturesque scenery. Picturesque scenery, and for all generations to live in peace. Is this your Tao? Unfortunately, it's all an illusion. The world will unite after a long period of separation and separate after a long period of unity. This is fate. Throughout the dynasties, revolutions are like fire, and I will use the power of fire to change the world. Jiang Li's words were like thunder. His eyebrows twitched, and he immediately meditated the great emperor's fire seal. Immediately, the picturesque scenery was filled with smoke, and the land was red. There was chaos and killing everywhere. This was the necessary transformation of a dynasty. Transforming the world was like a spark that could start a prairie fire. It was unstoppable. No matter how heroic one couldn't turn the tide. Rumble. After Zhang Li's great emperor's fire seal comprehended the Tao of transformation, his mind cultivation reached a new level. Niao Wanxiong was a good opponent. This was a pure battle of wills. Divine arts were useless. Divine arts were used to activate energy bodies, but if one's mind was fighting with the enemy, there was no way to control energy bodies. Zhang Li's hypnosis restrained Niao Wanxiong's divine art, the sacred fetus. Both of them were very dangerous. Once their minds were lost, even their souls would be controlled by the other. Qian Kuan mountains and rivers, eternal. Niao Wanxiong didn't have the time to activate the sacred embryo in his body. Zhang Li's spiritual attack was too ferocious. He didn't expect that even though they were both in the grand meditation realm, Zhang Li's spiritual power was so powerful that it almost destroyed his Tao. Cultivate the body, rule the family, and rule the world. Rebels and traitors, falsely claiming the will of heaven and trying to change the world. I will suppress them with my power and save the world. Niao Wanxiong suddenly made another seal. Immediately, the army was like a tiger, swallowing the mountains and rivers. His mind was vast and mighty, like a heavenly soldier descending to the world. Wherever he went, the fire would be extinguished. Sweep the world, support the country, protect the orthodoxy, and shoulder justice. His mind was unprecedentedly focused. Thunder roams the world, wind rises and clouds gather, the 9 provinces tremble. Wind and thunder, wind and thunder. On the other side of the lake, Zhang Li walked like a dragon and tiger, his hands constantly making seals. His body and mind were one, as if he had borrowed the power of nature and the true meaning of the world in the vast void. His mind power suddenly combined with the wind, thunder, and fire of nature, ferociously attacking Niao Wanxiong. Niao Wanxiong's Tao was picturesque, and the world was peaceful. In order to break his Tao, Zhang Li used the fire leather cauldron and wind and thunder to break his Tao, destroy his mind, control his mind, and enslave his soul. Whether it was a single spark setting the prairie ablaze or a thunderstorm, they could sweep the world in an instant. During the battle, Zhang Li thought back to the history of mankind. He felt that every dynasty was like this. It seemed like the world was peaceful, but in the blink of an eye, the world was about to collapse. Beacons of fire filled the land, wind and thunder appeared, and the world immediately changed masters. The changes in the world were too much for the eyes to take in. In the battle, Zhang Li suddenly grasped another meaning of wind, thunder, and fire. It was the human heart. When the human heart changed, the world would suddenly be set on fire, and the world would be turned upside down. No wonder, no wonder. The Yellow Emperor's talisman scripture said that when the sky emits murderous intent, the stars will shift. When the earth emits murderous intent, dragons and snakes will rise. When man emits murderous intent, the world will be turned upside down. Zhang Li understood many mysteries. His mind became purer, his mind power increased, and his brain cells seemed to become stronger. Many of his brain's potential was unlocked. He was in a state of enlightenment. In the past, he thought wind, fire, and thunder were natural powers, but now he knew that it was the power of the human heart, a combination of the human heart and nature. That was when the sky emitted murderous intent, the earth emitted murderous intent, and the human heart emitted murderous intent. The heaven, earth, and man were connected. He had a deeper understanding of the 8 trigram wind lightning palm. In an instant, his mind power skyrocketed. Once he comprehended the Tao and became a bodhisattva, the 3 seals of wind, thunder, and fire were imprinted in the depths of Niao Wanxiong's mind. In fact, countless gusts of wind gathered together to form a wind god emperor. Countless bolts of lightning condensed into a lightning god emperor. Countless flames condensed into a fire god great emperor. The three emperors weighed heavily on Nie Wanxiong's mind. At this moment, the attack of the Great Spirit Emperor Seal had already been unleashed to its limits. From the outside, Zhongli looked like a Taoist priest from ancient times who was casting a spell in the air. He took astral steps, and on the other side of the lake, the wind and clouds surged as he danced with joy. On the other side of the lake, Nie Wanxiong's hands were sometimes forming hand seals, and sometimes walking like a great scholar punishing a thief. The two of them faced each other from a distance, their spirits surging in midair. Others couldn't see anything unusual, but in the entire lake, countless fish, prawns, water monsters, birds in the sky, mosquitoes, centipedes, scorpions, and snakes in the soil all died. Pitter-patter. A flock of birds passed by in the sky. Suddenly, like kites with their strings cut, they fell to the ground like raindrops. The surface of the lake was already white, and countless dead fish floated to the surface. In the forest, countless mosquitoes also fell to the ground. All sentient beings were brain-dead under the impact of the two's thoughts. Sentient beings were sentient beings with thoughts. Any living being with a mind of their own would be affected by the turbulence of their thoughts. If the two of them were to fight in a densely populated city, many people would be killed or turned into idiots. Under the pressure of Jiang Li's enlightenment, wind, lightning, and fire emperors, Nie Wanxiong's body arched, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He was obviously injured. Good chance. Jiang Li was perceptive. He suddenly shook the air and focused his mind. Like a ball of lightning, he broke through people's minds and attacked Nie Wanxiong's brain. On the surface, it looked like he just slashed through the air without any airwaves, but Nie Wanxiong shook again and spat out another mouthful of blood. Is that the sacred fetus? The moment Jiang Li's consciousness invaded Nie Wanxiong's body, he sensed a vast amount of energy. It was extremely concentrated, almost equivalent to a nuclear reactor. This energy was extremely tyrannical. Once it exploded, the entire mountain would be flattened. That massive energy was, without a doubt, the sacred fetus. In fact, scientific research had already shown that any expert who formed the sacred fetus was like a human-shaped nuclear reactor with extremely large energy. Can I control his sacred fetus and use this mass of energy for myself? Should I use this mass of energy for myself? A thought emerged in Jiang Li's mind. He struck while the iron was hot. His mind power penetrated and attacked the sacred fetus. The sacred fetus's energy was a mass of heaven and earth spiritual energy that had been tempered and condensed. Its density was much higher than that of spiritual stones. Ordinary heaven and earth spiritual energy and spiritual stones were just like charcoal, while the sacred fetus's energy was like a transformed diamond. Jiang Li wanted to control this sacred fetus and seize it. If it was an embryonic, breathing realm expert's sacred fetus, it would be impossible to seize it. However, this sacred fetus was temporary. Since it could be implanted in Nie Wanxiong's body, it could also be implanted in Jiang Li's body. Chapter 146. Jiang Li's psyche surged. His spirit connected fire, wind, thunder, and many ancient texts and human history together. This was the so-called Tao of observing the heavens, carrying out the heavens. The ancients linked astronomical phenomena and human activities together, hence the Book of Changes. And now, he finally understood this point. This was what he had learned during his battle with Nie Wanxiong. Nie Wanxiong's mental energy, spirit, and Tao all carried the classical and simple idea of the unity of man and nature. After coming into contact with his Tao, Jiang Li understood the mysteries of astronomical phenomena and human beings. When a person's killing intent was released, the earth and sky will be turned upside down. Therefore, he once again consolidated his Ding cultivation level. Although he couldn't reach Ding, his mental energy had multiplied, and he had already firmly suppressed Nie Wanxiong. His brain of the universe was the most wondrous meditation in the world. It could comprehend the most profound mysteries in the depths of the universe. It was the end of the self aspect, human aspect, all beings aspect, and longevity aspect. St. Fetus sees energy, mind, matter, three realms into one. Jiangli circulated his mental energy again and concentrated his power. Boom! His mental energy descended into Nie Wanxiong's body and enveloped the huge energy St. Fetus. He began to control it as if he was hypnotizing someone. However, the moment he began to control the St. Fetus in his body opened its eyes. It seemed to have intelligence. As soon as its eyes opened, Jiangli felt as if the entire world had disappeared. This pair of eyes was the only thing left in the entire universe. What a pair of bright eyes! After opening, they shot out rays of light, like a hidden dragon rising into the sky, like a heavenly dragon descending to the mortal world, like a hidden dragon breaking out of the earth, like a mad dragon emerging from the sea. Swish! Jiangli felt his mind go blank. This pair of eyes took away everything from him. His thoughts, heart, soul, and spirit. This is the will left behind by the St. Fetus. At this moment, Jiangli knew what this pair of eyes was. The only thing that could instantly crush his mind was the will left behind by the St. Fetus. Nie Wanxiong was at the Ding realm, so it was very difficult for him to control the St. Fetus. He needed the will of the St. Fetus to assist him. Otherwise, the St. Fetus' powerful energy would blow him up. Think about it. What would it be like to implant a nuclear reactor in a human body? It was impossible for a human body to control it. If it exploded, everything within a 10-mile radius would be razed to the ground. The will left behind in the Saint embryo turned into a pair of eyes that devoured Jiangli. With Jiangli's current cultivation base, he would have turned into an idiot in an instant. Unfortunately, he had the monarch relic. Jiangli knew that every time his psyche clashed with someone else, when he reached his limit, the Grand Emperor relic would reveal its power. Or it could be said that when he and the Grand Emperor relic became one, the Grand Emperor relic was his potential. The eyes formed from the sage embryo's psyche pierced through his mind like lightning, wanting to crush his soul and kill him. As expected, the Grand Emperor relic moved. Jiang Li's soul was in a state of annihilation. At this time, he saw in the depths of his mind, in the boundless galaxy that stretched to the end of the void, the shadow of a Grand Emperor appeared from the end of the galaxy. It strode forward, and with every step it took, the figure of the Grand Emperor became clearer. This peerless Grand Emperor strode across the galaxy, and every step he took crossed billions of light years. Space couldn't obstruct him. In an instant, his figure filled the entire universe. Rumble! The Grand Emperor rushed in front of him and stretched out a hand. Jiangli couldn't see the Grand Emperor's face clearly. He only saw a hand shattering the endless void and two fingers reaching out to dig out the eyes. Humph! A disdainful snort came from the depths of the void, and the eyes were dug out. All the illusions disappeared. Jiangli woke up and saw a huge energy body rushing towards him. The sage embryo flew out of Nie Wanxiong's body and flew towards him. He was just about to dodge, but the energy body of the sage embryo had already turned into a huge rainbow and was absorbed by the Grand Emperor relic. The Grand Emperor relic absorbed all the energy of the sage embryo, and it suddenly turned from milky white to a faint azure color. There seemed to be more supernatural effects. Nie Wanxiong's body sat down, and he seemed to be exhausted. Losing the sage embryo was a very serious blow to him. However, although his mind was exhausted, his eyes were unprecedentedly sharp. What is this treasure of yours? It actually broke through the sage embryo's psyche and will, and even absorbed the sage embryo. Whoosh! Jiangli ignored him. He flew over, but he didn't kill Nie Wanxiong. Instead, he flew past him and dashed to the forest 10 kilometers away to save the others. His body hid in the depths of the Grand Emperor relic space, and he activated it with all his might. He found that the Grand Emperor relic speed had increased a lot, and there seemed to be some new changes. Unfortunately, he had no time to study it now. He flew over and scanned with his mind. Instantly, The great Qian Academy disciples guarding the relic fainted. Even Lei Zheng and Ji Qingwu were hypnotized. Summon the battleship. After hypnotizing Lei Zheng and Ji Qingwu, Jiangli instantly gave the order. Instantly, the restraints on their bodies were removed. He pressed on the optical computer and gave the order. The battleship in the depths of the sky descended rapidly, and in a few minutes, it landed on the ground. Going immediately, Jiangli scanned with his mind, and everyone was hypnotized by him. They quickly entered the battleship. Rumble. The battleship closed, and, at this moment, he heaved a sigh of relief. He walked out from the depths of the space and woke up Lei Zheng, Ji Qingwu, and the others. What's going on? Why are we inside the battleship? Lei Zheng shouted in shock and stood up. Quickly start the battleship. Let's leave this place. Jiangli imperceptibly sent out a thought, and it calmed him down. Lei Zheng immediately responded. He was well-trained and had been through many hardships. How could he not understand the urgency of the current situation? Without asking any questions, he immediately started the battleship. In an instant, the entire battleship exploded with infinite power. It had actually activated the reserve energy system. Swoosh! The battleship flew into the sky. With a leap, its speed was almost close to the speed of the first universe. It immediately disappeared and escaped. However, Jiangli didn't relax. Those tutors weren't willing to come, so there was definitely an ambush in the surroundings. Although the battleship was strong, it was still not enough to deal with those people who had cultivated to the strongest in the embryonic breathing realm. When a sacred fetus was sacrificed, the battleship would be destroyed instantly. His mind was constantly on guard. However, after a while, he saw the freshman base appear in front of him. He heaved a sigh of relief. This way, no matter how strong the other party was, it was impossible for them to run into the freshman base. The human Starry Sky University's base could withstand the attacks of all experts. The battleship stopped outside the base. At this time, everyone hadn't woken up. Only Lei Zheng and Ji Qingwu were still conscious. Jiangli, it was you who saved us. Ji Qingwu's eyes were very big as she stared at Jiangli. My tutor is Hong Heiyu. He had some special techniques that he gave me. Jiangli didn't mention the fact that the Starry Sky University tutors didn't come to rescue them. Suddenly, he shivered and stopped her. Don't let them wake up. I have to leave first. When they wake up, I'll tell them that the tutors came to rescue them and that you guys escaped on your own. He didn't want others to discover his miraculous abilities. Your tutor is Hong Heiyu? No wonder. Ji Qingwu seemed to have a sudden realization. She sighed and said, We finally escaped. Thinking about it, it's like a dream. Actually, she also didn't understand how they escaped. Let's end this matter here. Jiangli looked at the student called LV Jean, who was still unconscious. His voice was cold. This LV Jean was also saved, but he raped and killed women. I'm really ashamed of him. If there's a chance, I really want to kill him. This person is indeed shameless, but he is a student of our Starry Sky University, and human law doesn't stipulate that killing an alien native is a crime, so he can only be judged on moral grounds. Lei Zheng patted LV Jin's shoulder and took out a medicine to treat him. And his vitality is very strong, stronger than us. His tutor is also a powerful figure who has deep connections in Starry Sky University. After a while, LV Jin slowly woke up and opened his eyes. He jumped up, circled around, and found that he was on a battleship. Then he saw the Starry Sky University freshman base on the big screen on the battleship. He couldn't help but show a look of ecstasy on his face. Which team are you from? You actually rescued me? LV Jin's eyes lit up when he saw Ji Qingwu and began to ask. I'm the captain of the snow dance team, Ji Qingwu. This is the captain of the Cloud Thunder team, Lei Zheng. We spent a lot of effort to rescue you this time. Ji Qingwu saw LV Jin's expression and didn't have a good expression. Thank you very much. I'll treat you to a meal when I have the chance. LV Jin's tone was light as he stretched out his hand to shake Ji Qingwu's hand. Ji Qingwu snorted coldly. In order to rescue you, our two teams encountered great danger and were almost wiped out. You should come up with something to make up for us. All of our sonic mechas were destroyed. This is not a small number. Oh, LV Jean saw that Ji Qingwu didn't shake hands with him and felt a little embarrassed. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said in a strange tone, "Compensation? It's your duty to save your companions. Does Starry Sky University have any rules about compensation? We really can't agree with your character. You actually raped and killed a woman who couldn't resist." Lei Jing also spoke in a very cold tone. Although the other party is an enemy, in the spirit of humanitarianism, killing in battle is to acknowledge the other party's strength, but capturing the other party's woman and raping and killing her is inhumane. Oomph. LV Jean stood upright, his eyes full of disdain. "What? You still want to criticize me? I won't argue with you. When I arrive at the human base, a tutor will naturally come to pick me up. As for compensation, you can go to Starry Sky University and apply for it yourself." What a big tone. Jiang Li couldn't stand it anymore. He was already very dissatisfied with LV Jean and saved him out of obligation. He didn't expect this person to have such an attitude. He couldn't help but scold him. "If I knew you had this attitude, I wouldn't have saved you. Trash like you should fend for themselves. Who do you think you are?" LV Jean turned around and looked Jiang Li up and down. "Looking at you. Are you a freshman? How dare you speak in front of me?" Swish. His hand bent, and with earth energy, he whipped towards Jiang Li's face. Jiang Li was already prepared. He flipped his body and dodged, but LV Jin's hand was like a golden snake wrapped around its silk. It trembled nonstop, like maggots in a tarsal bone, and chased after him again. LV Jin's vitality was very strong, reaching 4. His attack was almost as fierce as Meng Xingyun's. With a shake of his wrist, earth energy appeared like a spirit snake, capable of cutting a person into pieces. Chapter 147. LV Jin's attacks were sharp and ruthless, showing no mercy to Jiang Li. From this, one could see how vicious and merciless he was. Jiang Li didn't move, but his eyes emitted a sharp light. "Stop!" He slowly spat out a word. This word was like the mantra of Buddha to subdue demons. To others, it was indescribably pleasing to the ear, but to LV Jean, it was like a thunderclap, shattering all his thoughts and emotions. His hand stopped 3 inches in front of Jiang Li, motionless, unable to attack. His entire person was in a daze, having been hypnotized by Jiang Li. Jiang Li could even hypnotize Nie Wanxiu. In the confrontation between the two of them, he once again gained enlightenment, and his mental energy soared. Although his vitality was still only 3, it was easy for him to hypnotize LV Jean with his mental energy. "Lie down!" Jiang Li ordered again. LV Jean lay down like a walking corpse, unable to resist at all. His mind had been completely enslaved. Jiang Li didn't even look at LV Jean. He turned around and said, "This LV Jean really shouldn't have been saved. Compared to him, those natives are much more moral. He's indeed a scum." Ji Qingwu saw the killing intent in Jiang Li's eyes, and her heart trembled. She was afraid that he would really kill LV Jean. She hurriedly stood in front of Jiang Li and said, "But since things have come to this, we can only endure and wait for his teacher to come and pick him up. We must make his teacher compensate us for our losses. So many sonic mechas, almost half of the assets of the 2 teams. It's impossible to lose them just to save this scum. Land the battleship and wait for the teachers from Star Sky University to come." Lei Zheng let out a long sigh, feeling a little depressed. In terms of bearing, our Star Sky University students are indeed inferior to those natives. "Don't worry, such scum are rare after all," Jiang Li comforted. The battleship stopped outside the base, and messages were sent out. Not long later, many battleships appeared in the sky. So, a teacher was the first to arrive. He quickly jumped out of the battleship with an anxious expression. "How is LV Jean?" This instructor was clearly LV Jin's instructor. As soon as he appeared, he dashed into the starfish battleship, and upon seeing that LV Jean was being hypnotized, he frowned. With a thought, he shouted, "Wake up!" LV Jean slowly opened his eyes and crawled up. At first, his gaze was somewhat blank, but after that, he seemed to have remembered something. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he stared at Jiang Li. "Did you hypnotize me earlier?" Jiang Li did not answer. Ji Qingwu stepped forward and said, "You must be LV Jin's mentor. This time, we saved him from the natives and suffered great losses. I hope you can make up for our losses and not let us suffer for nothing." LV Jin's instructor was an old man who looked to be in his 70s. He was extremely powerful. When he flew over just now, he wasn't wearing a mecha, but there was still a piercingly cold aura coming from him. He didn't even look at Ji Qingwu. Instead, he sized up Jiang Li with a gaze as sharp as a knife. "Why did you hypnotize LV Jin? Don't you know how serious the consequences are? It might leave a shadow in his soul cultivation, and he will never be able to improve again." His tone was simply a blatant interrogation. Jiang Li was stunned. He didn't expect this person to question him first instead of thanking them for saving his disciple. "Before you speak, please don't forget that we were the ones who saved LV Jin." Jiang Li's tone was also very cold. "Shut up. I'm not asking you if you saved him or not. I'm asking you why you hypnotized him." LV Jin's instructor's voice was stern, and there seemed to be a storm brewing in his eyes. He shouted, "You can't have any setbacks in your soul cultivation. Are you trying to cripple him?" "He attacked me, so I had no choice but to hypnotize him and calm him down. Maybe he was stimulated by something, and he already has symptoms of madness." Jiang Li suppressed the anger in his heart and explained word by word. "This person defended the alien natives and called me scum. Didn't I just kill a few natives?" LV Jin had already stood up, standing behind the instructor. "I had no choice but to teach him a lesson. Who knew he would plot against me? I think he might be a spy among the natives. Otherwise, how could he have saved me? He might be a spy. We need to isolate him for investigation." LV Jin's instructor, an old man in his 70s, nodded and then scolded Jiang Li. "You stay here and don't move. Starry Sky University's legal department will come and investigate you to see if you have colluded with the natives." What a joke. Jiang Li finally couldn't hold it in any longer, and his face darkened. "We risked our lives to rescue this scum, but not only did he not appreciate our kindness, he even repaid our kindness with enmity and attacked us. Sparing his dog life is already the best we can do. Now you say we colluded with the natives? You really are a master and disciple, both shameless and shameless. How dare you be rude to me? Who is your instructor? Didn't he teach you manners?" The old instructor was also angry. He took a step forward and reached out to grab Jiang Li. "He didn't teach you, so I'll teach you in his place. You must be polite to any instructor." Bang! The old man's hand swayed, and earth energy surged as he grabbed Tang Wulin. Jiang Li felt as if his entire body was wrapped up, and he couldn't move at all. The air currents were like ropes, strangling him so much that he couldn't breathe. Rumble! Another hand appeared next to him, breaking through the astral energy and grabbing Jiang Li out of the way. Jiang Li's vision blurred, and in the next second, he was far away from the old man's attack. He was standing on the open ground, and his instructor, Hong Heiyu, was standing beside him. Jiang Li knew something was wrong, so he had already informed Hong Heiyu. "Song Shuren, your skin is getting thicker and thicker. How dare you make a move on my disciple?" Hong Heiyu held his hands behind his back, staring coldly at the 70-year-old old man. So this old thing is called Song Shuren. Jiang Li felt safe and secure with his instructor's protection once again. "Hong Heiyu, so this is your disciple." Song Shuren frowned, clearly afraid of Hong Heiyu. "What's going on?" Hong Heiyu turned to ask Jiang Li. Jiang Li told Hong Heiyu everything in detail, but didn't mention the specific details of his rescue. He only mentioned how LV Jin attacked him after the rescue. "So that's how it is." Hong Heiyu understood. He said in a disdainful tone, "Song Shuren, you're too despicable. These children saved your disciple and suffered a great loss, but you're acting shamelessly just to get compensation. You really don't deserve to be my Starry Sky University's instructor. These little things can save my disciple." Song Shuren's tone was still cold, but a lot less arrogant. "Do you think I don't know that my disciple has been captured? The one who captured him is called Niao Wanxiong, a disciple of a big shot in the Dechin Academy. An expert planted a saint fetus in his body, and he's a chess piece. I didn't act because there was an ambush. your disciple, and this group of people saved LV Jean. There's a big problem, and I think we need to investigate. This is proper procedure. Impudent. Lu Jean even started to tremble slightly. I don't care about the if situation. The current reality is that this group of students rescued your students and suffered a great loss. You have to compensate for their losses. Otherwise, don't blame me for taking action. Since you can take action against my students, I could take action against you too. Hong Black Prison suddenly shouted, causing everyone's bodies to tremble. How dare you? Song Shuren couldn't believe it and hurriedly took a step back. Why wouldn't I dare? You're just in Chongding. Don't forget, I'm in the embryonic breathing realm. Hong Black Prison crossed his arms in front of his chest. Even 100 of you wouldn't be a match for me. You should know my temper. I will only say one thing. Compensate for your losses. I will also give you a sum of money as a reward. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving. Although Song Shuren was in the Chongding realm, and his vitality was abnormally strong, when he met with Hong Heiyu in the embryonic breathing realm, the difference was too big. He couldn't fight back at all. Do you think I can't even afford the compensation for these little guys? Song Shuren was sly, and his expression didn't change. There are many suspicious points in this matter, and the higher-ups of Starry Sky University will investigate sooner or later. Nie Wanxiong is a chess piece trying to lure us out, and the higher-ups of Starry Sky University know that. As for how these little guys successfully rescued LV Jean, we have to explain it in the future. He took out a chip and said, "This is a chip card, and there's enough money on it to compensate you. Hong Heiyu, this disciple of yours isn't bad, but the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. I hope he can be more careful and not simply hypnotize others and destroy their spiritual cultivation. This is equivalent to cutting off their path of survival." As he spoke, Song Shuren grabbed LV Jean, flew out of the battleship, and disappeared in an instant. Ji Qingwu went forward to pick up the chip and check the account balance on it. This was a type of electronic check, and it could be transferred without any procedures. It could even be purchased directly. Seeing Ji Qingwu reveal a smile, Zhongli knew that she was obviously satisfied with the amount inside, and it was enough to compensate for everyone's loss. Zhongli, this time you contributed the most, so half of the money inside belongs to you. As she spoke, she was about to transfer the money. No need, I don't want this person's money, and I didn't lose anything, but you guys lost a large amount of armor, and the ability of the small team has been greatly reduced. Just keep it all. Zhongli waved his hand, not wanting Song Shuren's compensation. Ji Qingwu didn't agree, and insisted that Zhongli keep it. Zhongli's attitude was firm, and she didn't want to force him. She put away the electronic check and said with a smile, "If you need anything in the future, feel free to cooperate with our small team." Zhongli, follow me. Hong Heiyu seemed to have a lot on his mind, and didn't let Zhongli, Ji Qingwu, and the others continue talking. He grabbed Zhongli, and with a flash, they disappeared directly. In a short while, they appeared in the depths of a secret room. "What's on your body?" "I feel a very strong aura and power." Hong Heiyu went straight to the point and asked directly, "Also, did you save LV Jean? Those people didn't do anything at all?" That was indeed a trap. So many mentors didn't dare to go for fear of being ambushed. The two female students who came back to report the news, seeing that they couldn't get help, crazily went to rescue them alone, but they were all locked up by their respective mentors. No one dared to take the risk, and all of them became turtles. Although I feel ashamed for this, I didn't know that you also participated in this event, so I didn't bother to meddle. Your actions this time are very likely to fall into the eyes of some of the higher-ups of Starry Sky University, but you don't have to be afraid. You didn't do anything wrong. You just have some secrets. I will protect you, and anyone who wants to investigate you will have to go through me. Mentor, thank you. Zhongli expressed his gratitude from the bottom of his heart, and his words were concise and to the point. Saying unnecessary words would make him seem pretentious. The world is unpredictable on the path of seeking Tao. Today, I came to help you. In the future, you may have the opportunity to help me. What's there to thank me for? Hong Heiyu sighed. His eyes seemed to be looking into the distant void. Moreover, It is fate that I became your mentor, each of us descending from the void to the material world, and meeting each other is also fate. His eyes seemed to see through the entanglement of cause and effect. Jiangli was infected by Hong Heiyu's sigh and fell in a deep thought, then said, "Mentor, I do have some secrets. Secrets don't need to be told. If you tell them, they won't be secrets anymore. Everyone has secrets." Hong Heiyu waved his hand, stopping Jiangli from continuing. Starry Sky University is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. It's not strange for anything to appear. Every student is the pride of humanity. So what if they have secrets? You don't need to tell me. Just guard the secrets in your heart. Jiangli immediately stopped talking. He understood Hong Heiyu. This person's heart was like hell, able to tolerate millions of pain, indifferent to it, inflicting pain on others, on himself, to let the world understand pain, and thus to understand the truth that hell is not a prison. Such a person no longer cared about any secrets. He had his own unique and strong heart, and scrupulously followed his own path. Hong Heiyu was the strong one. He wasn't. I can see that your spirit has increased a lot. Hong Heiyu continued. However, to reach Chongding, there's still a long way to go. I can't help you with this kind of enlightenment. You have to do it yourself. Stay here to consolidate your cultivation. If there's anything, contact me at any time. I will immediately answer your questions. Chapter 148. Jiangli calmed himself down and sent an email to Luohan and Shiren to tell them that he was safe. Then, he started to cultivate. His spirit started to seep into the depths of the monarch relic, trying to find out what had happened to the relic. It had absorbed the energy form of the saint fetus and turned from milky white to light green. There must have been some incredible changes. First, he opened a slit in the space. Deep in the space, there was a strong smell of heaven and earth spirit chi. It was as if there was nectar flowing in the walls. His mind seeped into the space again, and he was in a trance. His spirit had entered a dream. Dream for thousands of autumns. What year is it today? With a faint sigh, the middle-aged man in white appeared again. This time, his image was clearer, and his expression was more vivid. He smiled and said, "Congratulations. You have provided a part of the vitality for the great emperor's relic, and you have provided enough spiritual support. You can now learn the great emperor's seal and the great emperor's heart seal. I can even learn the monarch heart seal now." Jiangli was dazed. The spirit monarch seal had 9 seals. Heaven, earth, human, water, fire, wind, thunder, and dream. When the 9 seals were combined, it would be invincible. This time, the monarch relic had absorbed the saint fetus and the spiritual attack, so it could learn 2 seals in a row. However, Jiangli hesitated. Learning 2 different seal arts at the same time was definitely hard to understand. Moreover, up until now, he had yet to fully comprehend the Great Emperor Lightning Seal, Great Emperor Wind Seal, and Great Emperor Fire Seal. The more he learned, the more profound he found them. "Can I learn them at any time if I don't learn them now?" Jiangli asked. "Yes, you can choose. The spiritual power helped you unlock these 2 arts. But with your current body condition, you can learn the Monarch Seal, but not the Monarch Heart Seal. The 4 seals of the Great Emperor's Seal, water, fire, wind, and lightning, are quite effective in tempering the body. As for the first 4 seals, heaven, earth, and man, it's purely about using one's heart to verify the heaven's heart, using one's heart to obtain the Tao heart, and using one's heart to verify the void heart. This kind of cultivation can only be comprehended after you form the sane embryo." The white-robed man spoke with fervor and assurance. He seemed to have become much more agile, no longer as mechanical as before. "Your agility seems to have increased. You're no longer a spiritual imprint?" Jiangli asked in his dream. He had also discovered the abnormality. After the Grand Emperor's relic absorbed the saint embryo, it underwent a qualitative change and used its energy to nourish my soul mark. Of course, I gained spirituality. The white-robed man smiled from ear to ear. "Also, I've remembered my name. You can call me Little D from now on." "Little Darch?" Jiangli chuckled. "That's right, but that's not my real name. It's my old nickname. I don't know who called me that. I can't remember my past for now. Maybe I'll be able to remember it if you give me more holy embryo vital chi. The white-robed man, little Dharch, had a trace of humanity in him, and his expressions and movements had become richer. What happened to the monarch relic? This was what Zhongli was most concerned about. This little Dharch, in front of him, was at most a spiritual imprint in the great emperor's relic. It was similar to some AI programs in the optical computer system. Absorbing the Saint Fetus was equivalent to upgrading the AI program. A long time ago, the monarch relic went through a lot of tribulations. There's some damage on the inside. The best way to repair it is to inject the purest primordial spirit. The primordial spirit is the saint embryo. Only the saint embryo cultivated by humans is the best nourishment for the monarch relic. As for the specific changes, you'll know when you use your embryonic breathing to absorb the spirit chi of heaven and earth. Little Dharch kept him in suspense. All right, I'll start cultivating the monarch's watermark first. Zhongli thought about it and felt that it was better to cultivate all 4 seals. Perhaps by combining water and fire, he would be able to comprehend more mysteries. Water. Little Dharch formed a seal with both hands, and the brain of the universe appeared above his head. It then quickly changed and meditated, creating all kinds of trajectories. Deep in the void, there was the rumbling sound of water. Then, the tribulation water surged out and drowned the entire universe. Water is the source of life. Fire is the mother of civilization. With life, there's civilization. That's why there's water before there's fire. Without water, there's no meaning for fire to exist in this world. Little Dharch demonstrated all kinds of mysteries and explained, water can destroy the world, but it can also nourish the world. Water is closely related to humans and all life. The monarch's watermark can adjust the structure of water in one's body. When used to the extreme, it can even condense all the water in one's body, causing a drastic change in one's physique. Many scriptures, meditations, and postures were taught one by one. Zhongli understood and did all kinds of meditations and postures in his dream. With each training, he could feel the structure of water in his body slowly changing. 70% of a human's body was water. Humans were a structure of water. The initial function of the monarch's watermark was to improve the structure of water in one's body, turning it into a structure full of vitality. From there, one's physique would be strengthened and the body would be reborn again. Water, fire, wind, and thunder seals. The initial cultivation of the 4 seals was based on the body. Lightning refined the body, wind pierced the organs, fire burned the bones and tendons, and water spread throughout the body. Every step was done step by step until it was complete. With the support of water, fire, wind, and thunder, a slight movement would be like the arrival of a monarch. Stepping on a storm, the world shook and the power of the heavens was overwhelming. After a long time, Zhongli woke up from his dream. The rock was still a rock. He recalled the cultivation of the monarch's watermark. It was still vivid in his mind, but there were still many parts that he couldn't understand. Zhongli stood up and walked out of the room. The sky was already dark. He dashed out of the base and went to a place far away from the human base to start his embryonic rest. As expected, as soon as he entered embryonic rest, the feeling was completely different from before. He felt like the world was surging and boundless spiritual chi was gathering. In an instant, he even felt like he was in the middle of a stormy sea. The great emperor's relic had indeed changed. The embryonic rest absorbed more spiritual chi from heaven and earth. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth poured into Zhongli's body. He activated the great emperor's watermark and felt that a lot of spiritual chi started to combine with the water in his body. It seeped into the water, causing the water to have a strong vitality. It was no longer a pool of stagnant water. At the same time that the spiritual chi and water combined, there seemed to be a strong energy surging continuously in Zhongli's body, as though it was about to break out of his body. He quickly activated the great emperor's fire seal. Water and fire complemented each other. At the same time, he activated the wind and thunder seals. He used the thunder to shake and the wind to support the fire. The boundless spiritual chi of heaven and earth rushed into his body. Under the effect of the great emperor's relic, it actually started to liquefy. To be able to liquefy the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, it required extremely strong soul power and psyche waves. The normal embryonic breathing realm could only pull the spiritual chi of heaven and earth out from the second dimension. Only the extremely powerful embryonic breathing realm could compress the spiritual chi further, turning it into a liquid state. Then, it would fuse into the depths of one's blood and water to transform the body, causing the body to become the most perfect form. Boundless heaven and earth's spiritual chi filled every inch of Jiang Li's blood and water, causing his body to seem as if it had turned into an exquisite crystal. Every part of his body flickered with light, giving off the smell of spirit stones. His vitality was skyrocketing. 3-1, 3-2, 3-5, 3-8, 4. In the end, his vitality rose to 4 before stopping. In the process of crazily absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, his vitality actually increased by 1 point. This was 1 point, not 0, 1. In just one night, his vitality had a huge leap. It was simply shocking. The leap from 3 to 4 was definitely like a carp leaping over the Dragon's Gate. In an instant, his vitality caught up to Meng Xingyun. Jiang Li's body stood up. With a violent shake, a series of Gang Qi vibrated out. Within 10 steps, the Gang Qi actually blew up all the trees and grass into pieces. He flicked his finger. In less than a tenth of a second, a spiraling ball of energy was produced. It flew straight out and pierced through a rock 5 steps away. The rock instantly turned into powder, and a cave actually appeared. He waved his hand again. A beam of Gang Qi condensed and slashed at the ground. In an instant, a ravine was carved out of the ground. It was sword Qi. This was exactly the same as Meng Xingyun that day. Rise! He shook his arms, and waves of air surged out from under his feet. They surged up continuously, as if he was walking on an invisible ladder to the sky. It was a complete violation of the laws of physics. This was like the Qigong in ancient novels, the cloud ladder. In truth, this was only a perfect control of the airflow. This kind of method even surpassed that of birds. As long as one's physical strength was strong enough, a casual shake of their muscles could create a gale. In particular, Zhang Li had learned the variations of the great emperor's wind seal. His control of the airflow was much more exquisite than that of ordinary experts. Once he was more than 20 meters in the air, he was like a fish at the bottom of the water. Then, he slowly descended and turned at will. He practically treated the air as flat ground, or the airflow of heaven and earth as a swimming pool. The great emperor's watermark is really amazing. Floating in the air is like swimming in water. There are indeed many benefits to having a strong life force. When Zhang Li landed on the ground, he felt a flow of qi in his body that was connected to the earth. It made his feet rooted and unmoving. Boom! He operated the great emperor's watermark again. The blood in his body rippled, and the water began to circulate. All the spiritual liquid in the water began to gather. Finally, in the depths of his dantian in his lower abdomen, a drop of liquid the size of soybean was formed. At the same time, his life force began to decline from 4 to 3, 5, and finally dropped to 3. He returned to the result before he started cultivating. Great! Zhang Li also noticed the changes in his body. He was overjoyed. The great emperor's watermark is really amazing. It can perfectly hide one's strength. When the spiritual liquid in my body is gathered together, my life force will decline, and when it is melted, my life force will improve. This is a huge amount of energy, life force. While he was surprised, he dispersed the drop of spiritual liquid in his lower abdomen. Immediately, his life force rose again. The next moment, he gathered it back in his dantian, and his life force began to decline. This was a perfect concealment. When others checked, they thought his life force was only 3, but in fact it was 4. Such a huge mistake in judgment would cause the opponent to make a serious mistake and be killed. Moreover, as he cultivated, The spiritual liquid in the depths of his dantian would become stronger and stronger, which would cause Jiang Li's life force to increase rapidly. As expected, the great emperor's relic had a shocking change. In the past, it could only absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Now, it could liquefy the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. I hope I can find Meng Xingyun and fight him again. I won't lose to him. Jiang Li couldn't forget about Meng Xingyun. After all, it was Meng Xingyun who defeated him and made him lose the chance to be in the top 10. The sky had begun to brighten. The first rays of the morning sun shone through the forest, casting a patch of light on the ground. Jiang Li took a deep breath of the fresh air and returned to the human base in a happy mood. A new day had begun. Chapter 149. What is hidden in your body? Liquid spiritual energy? Hong Heiyu was shocked when he first saw Jiang Li. Even with his cultivation, he was still dazed. It could be seen that Jiang Li's changes were too shocking. It was simply against the common sense of cultivation. I can't hide it from teacher. Jiang Li smiled sheepishly. He had thought that he could refine liquefied spiritual energy and store it in his body, hiding his life force so that others wouldn't be able to see through his strength. He didn't expect that Hong Black Prison would see through him with just a glance. It seemed that in the eyes of an expert, his disguise was not worth mentioning at all. Let me take a look. Hong Heiyu grabbed Jiang Li. Suddenly, Jiang Li felt that his internal organs were penetrated by a substantial spiritual force. Every blood vessel and bone marrow was seen clearly. Finally, it landed in the depths of his dantian and lower abdomen and found that drop of liquid. This was much more powerful than X-rays. People with strong spiritual force could see through the state of others' bodies at a glance. They could even feel the changes in cells clearly. It is indeed the combination of the liquid spiritual energy and your vitality, turning into an existence similar to energy. Hong Heiyu let out a long sigh. What did you rely on to do it? With the current technology, there is no way to do this unless there is a peerless expert giving you enlightenment. I have an item that can allow me to enter the embryonic state now and absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth for my own use. Jiang Li didn't hide it. Oh, Hong Heiyu was a little surprised, but he didn't ask what it was. This is not surprising. Peerless experts can hypnotize people into unconscious embryonic state so that the body can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, this will consume the spiritual energy. It is better to take spirit stones directly. As he spoke, he suddenly pointed. Buzz! Immediately, Jiang Li felt that there seemed to be a huge spiritual force pouring down. His spiritual force increased endlessly, and he felt the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the second dimension surging like a tide. He tried to contact it with his mind. Sure enough, he could absorb a trace of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the second dimension, but it was a little difficult. Wake up! Hong Heiyu's thunderous voice rang out. Jiang Li seemed to have woken up from a dream. Did I just enter the embryonic breathing realm? He recalled the scene and felt that he had been hypnotized by Hong Heiyu. That's right, I hypnotized you. Hong Heiyu seemed to be thinking about something. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly turned around and said, "But this is just a small matter. In the realm of the embryonic breathing realm, one soul defends the void and comprehends the way of the void's changes. Only then can one penetrate into the second dimension and obtain the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This realm is no small matter. Even if you have that thing, you still have to be careful. Once you lose your mind, the violent spiritual energy of heaven and earth will blast you into powder." After a moment of thought, Jiang Li took out the Grand Emperor Saraira and said, "This is the item I have. Can you take a look at it and see what secrets it contains?" Oh! Hong Heiyu grabbed the air, and the Grand Emperor Saraira flew into his hand. He pinched the stone carefully with 2 fingers and observed it attentively. However, he still couldn't find any clues. After that, he inserted his spiritual energy into it, but it also disappeared. No matter how he looked at it, it was just an ordinary stone. Check the composition of this stone. A ray of energy shone on the Grand Emperor Saraira. After that, the AI's energy started to permeate the stone and check the composition of the stone. At the same time, it studied the geological age. Almost any information could be checked. However, after the AI examined it for a while, the analysis was very ordinary. Biological bone, age, composition. The final examination result was that it was a very ordinary bone of an unknown biological creature. It didn't contain any energy and didn't have any spirituality. How could this be? Zhongli had also used the equipment to examine the Grand Emperor Sarira before. The results were the same. However, the equipment of Starry Sky University was very advanced. It would definitely be able to detect some clues. Unfortunately, it still couldn't detect anything. This showed the wonders of the Grand Emperor Sarira. Amazing, amazing. Hong Heiyu looked up and down at the Grand Emperor Sarira. He suddenly squeezed it, but the Grand Emperor Sarira didn't budge an inch. It couldn't be destroyed. Although the examination result says it's the bone of an unknown biological creature, it's very likely that it's only on the surface. Its body should be hidden in a deeper dimension. It's a pity that my cultivation is too low. I can't see through the mysteries of this thing, but you have to take good care of it and study it. I relied on this thing to save those students. Song Shurin said that Starry Sky University will investigate me. What if they find out about this thing? Zhongli was worried about this. Don't worry about this. Hong Heiyu waved his hand, signaling Zhongli not to worry. Who would dare to investigate my disciple? Moreover, even if they investigate, you'll have done nothing wrong. So what if you have a treasure? Which student of Starry Sky University doesn't have secrets? Who doesn't have a few trump cards? If anyone dares to use this thing as a badge, I will beat him until his parents won't recognize him. Your mission is to cultivate well, become stronger, stronger, and stronger. Since you have this treasure, which can automatically absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, then I can arrange even more powerful training for you. As my Hong Heiyu's disciple, you are born to be powerful. Arrange even more powerful training. Zhongli felt a chill in his heart. Last time in the depths of the volcano, he already knew how powerful the training was. However, in Hong Heiyu's mouth, it seemed to be just an appetizer. Not bad. You still have a lot of potential. I can use a series of methods to bring out your potential once again, because I can see that your potential is much greater than Meng Hongyun's. Humph. That Gue Junzi and I are equally matched. He wants to cultivate a genius disciple to firmly suppress me, but he doesn't know that my disciple's potential is 10 times greater than his. Hong Heiyu talked to himself, getting more and more excited. Let's go. Let's start the training now. You can't slack off. Follow me to Death Valley. Death Valley. Before Zhongli could come back to his senses, his whole body was grabbed by Hong Heiyu. In the next moment, he was standing on Hong Heiyu's warship. The warship started up, and in an instant, it was 10,000 miles away. This time, it took a few hours before the warship stopped and slowly landed at the entrance of a valley. Zhongli was grabbed by Hong Heiyu from the warship. After getting out of the warship, he saw a long and narrow valley. Mist was rising, floating in the air. A sinister aura was faintly transmitted from the depths of the valley. This is Death Valley? Zhongli looked at Hong Heiyu. Teacher, are we going in to cultivate? I see that this thick mist is a little abnormal. Is it poisonous? Of course it's poisonous, but it's a kind of baleful aura. Hong Heiyu looked at Death Valley, his expression complicated and ever-changing. He seemed to have thought of something. If you are enveloped by this baleful aura, you will suffer the pain of being cut by 1,000 knives and pierced by 10,000 swords. Do you see that? In the depths of the mist, there are some flashes of golden light. Many years ago, a peerless expert practiced swordsmanship in this valley and left behind a baleful aura. Baleful aura? Zhongli started to recall carefully. In the cultivation world that he knew of in his dreams, there were experts who cultivated flying swords. Within a radius of tens of miles, sword chi could be seen everywhere. Anyone who entered that area would be cut into pieces. Baleful aura was a kind of energy, of very sharp energy. The advantage of cultivators was actually that they were good at using energy. It was also a kind of advanced technique. Earth's technology used tools to use energy, while cultivators used their bodies to use energy. Both were using energy. Being able to use energy was called a divine ability. Robot, go to the valley. Hong Heiyu opened the battleship's hatch, and a robot walked out. It was as tall as a human. Its entire body was made of metal. It was very agile and was used for exploration. Jiangli stared at the metal robot and watched it walk into the valley step by step. Just as it stepped into the valley, kacha kacha, the robot's body seemed to be under a huge pressure, as if Mount Tai was pressing down on it. It was hard to bear, and there was a sound of gears jamming at the metal joints. What a strong gravity! Jiangli shivered and blurted out, "The gravity in the valley is different from the gravity outside." "That's right, the gravity in this valley is 20 times that of Earth." Hong Heiyu continued, "Look, Death Valley is reacting to every step the robot takes. This Death Valley is not only a place for cultivation, but is also a place where ancient imperial star cultivators once cultivated. It is an ancient ruin. I have explored this place many times before, but I always returned empty-handed." "Teacher cultivated here before?" Jiangli looked around and then turned on his optical computer to locate the coordinates. He was shocked when he couldn't locate Star Sky University's base. It was obvious that this place was very far from Star Sky University's base. He remembered that the last time he went to the crater, it was 30,000 kilometers away from the base, and the battleship could reach it in 10 minutes. But this time, it took a few hours to arrive. "I used to come here to cultivate with others. This is a secret place." Hong Heiyu's eyes were filled with deep longing. "Even Star Sky University doesn't know about this place. I feel that there is a secret here, but I can't enter and explore it. But I can still cultivate in the periphery and suffer the pain of the mud plow hell. The last level of my 10-directional hell Dao, the endless hell Dao, was successfully cultivated here." Clang, clang, clang. As he spoke, sparks flew from the robot's body. Jiang Li's eyes were fixed on the robot as it gradually entered the valley. Suddenly, some floating golden lights flew over from the thick fog, leaving many marks on the robot's metal shell. The robot was made of a type of alloy, so it was very difficult to destroy. But now, many sword marks were left on it, showing how sharp those golden lights were. The robot went deeper again. Suddenly, a thick fog rushed over, and it contained many golden lights. Bang! The robot was immediately dismembered and shattered into pieces. Impressive. Jiang Li's hair stood on end. "Teacher, you won't let me go in and cultivate empty-handed, right? I will die. The metal robot is dismembered. Won't I die if I go in?" Hong Heiyu looked at Jiang Li with a hair-raising gaze. "If you don't know the pain of death, how will you know the joy of life? I want you to go in and cultivate, and you're not allowed to wear any armor. Just by entering, I want you to be cut into 1,000 pieces and have your heart pierced by 10,000 swords. Only then will you be able to stimulate your spiritual potential. If you don't enter hell, how will you ascend to heaven?" "Teacher, I think you should stop before you go too far. How can you not wet your shoes if you always walk by the river? It's one thing to not be afraid of death, but I think it's very stupid to seek your own death." Jiang Li felt that it was very dangerous and didn't dare to go in. "I'm telling you to go, so go. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Hong Heiyu raised his leg and kicked him. Jiang Li was kicked by Hong Heiyu and involuntarily flew up and fell into the valley. Chapter 150. This kind of training is like dancing on the tip of a knife. When Jiang Li was kicked away by Hong Heiyu, he felt that this kind of training was crazy and hysterical. He didn't care about his own life and death. It was a bit like a devil. Although Jiang Li wasn't afraid of hardships or tiredness, he still felt that it was better to take things one step at a time and accumulate experience slowly. That was the right way. Throwing one's life away to temper oneself at all times was also a kind of foolish behavior. After all, he only had one life. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he shouldn't do anything dangerous. Unfortunately, he had a mentor like Hong Heiyu, so there was nothing he could do. As soon as he landed in the valley, the first thing he felt was an enormous pressure. The gravity that was 20 times that of Earth's was pressing down on his body. Every inch of his skin, pores, cells, organs, and bones were creaking. He felt as if he was sealed in a crystal and was collapsing inwards and being compressed. His whole body was shrinking, and his organs were squeezed together. Helplessly, he released the liquid spiritual chi of heaven and earth and combined it with the water in his cells. His vitality increased, and he began to emit a powerful aura. Only then did he feel better. However, when he walked, his movement was still greatly restricted. His speed was at least 20 times slower than before. He punched out. There was no connate gang chi, only some fist wind. It wasn't very powerful. It was as if he had been beaten back to his original form, back to the time when his vitality was only 0.07. This was because the airflow was tightly restrained under the gravity that was 20 times that of Earth. The air here was very heavy because of the gravity. This was common sense. Some planets were too small in mass, and the gravity was not strong enough to suck in air, so there was no atmosphere on the surface of the planet. Some planets were too heavy, and even light was sucked in, resulting in a black hole. If he was an ordinary student, he would have been crushed to death by the gravity here. Fortunately, Zhongli had been modified several times, so he was quite agile. Ouch! As soon as he dispelled the pressure of the gravitational force, a cloud of mist surged over. There were specks of golden light fragments in the mist. As soon as they came into contact with his body, many bloody wounds appeared on his body. The intense pain was unbearable. It was as if he was being cut by 1,000 knives. Moreover, under the strong pressure of the gravity, once there was a wound, blood would spurt out from the wound. Great Emperor's watermark. Zhongli felt that the wounds on his body were about to spurt out blood. He knew that once it started, he would immediately become a dried corpse. He endured the pain and used the Great Emperor's watermark to suppress the flow of blood in his body. The worldly spiritual liquid in his body once again turned into gas and circulated around his body, healing his wounds. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was almost a panacea. When it was gathered together, it was extremely similar to the structure of the body. It could heal wounds and change one's physical abilities, especially the liquefied heaven and earth spiritual chi. It was the essence after being condensed. It was an innate and powerful energy from the depths of the second dimension. It was the essence of chi, of the spiritual chi. In a life and death situation, it can stimulate the human spirit, see through everything, and unleash your potential. Zhongli gritted his teeth and continued to advance. With every step he took, the golden light would surge up. It truly felt like he was being sliced by 1,000 blades. Especially when some of the golden light pierced into his skin, it caused his internal organs to feel as though they were being pierced by 10,000 swords. This kind of pain was akin to hovering between life and death. It was hard to describe. He could clearly see that every time the golden light penetrated into his body, his organs would be pierced and then healed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Z. Another wave of golden light surged over. This time, it was very serious. Without thinking, Zhongli's body flashed, and he was about to dodge. But when he dodged, another golden light suddenly appeared from the depths of the mist. It was like a dragon and snake, and it was impossible to dodge. It circled around his body. Immediately, Zhongli felt an intense pain in his waist. Then, he looked down in confusion and was shocked to find that his waist had been neatly cut open. His lower body and upper body had been separated. He had been cut in half. Plop! His upper body fell to the ground. Fortunately, there was no blood spurting out because the spiritual chi of heaven and earth had wrapped the broken part of his body in time. However, the intense pain in his waist made his brain almost suffocate. I've been cut in half. I'm going to die. He couldn't believe the facts in front of him. It was unbelievable. He had a feeling that he was in a dream. People who saw themselves cut in half at the waist would feel the same way. In ancient times, there was a man named Feng Xiaoru who was cut in half at the waist and died after writing 7 characters. In hell, there was a hell that specialized in cutting sinners at the waist. It was nothing to cut others at the waist, but to see oneself cut in half at the waist, it was very emotional. In that instant, Jiangli felt the terror of life and death. This extremely short instant felt as long as a century. It was as if time itself had stopped at this moment. Jiangli felt as if he had fallen into another time and space. Many figures appeared in the depths of his mind. His parents, siblings, Luohan and Serene, Dahe, and the group of cats. The voices and smiles of everyone lingered in the depths of his mind. Endless regret and all kinds of negative emotions surged in his heart. Swoosh! Suddenly, a shadow rushed in. It was Hong Heiyu. His body was as fast as lightning, and the fog was knocked away. Even the golden light was excluded. With just a flash, a huge energy body appeared behind him, wrapped around the 2 halves of Jiang Li's body, and quickly brought him out. Jiang Li felt as if he had been reconnected. He was wrapped by Hong Heiyu's own holy fetus energy, and it only took him a few seconds to enter the battleship. There was an operating table inside the battleship. Hong Heiyu activated the energy, and Jiang Li's body began to be stitched up by the energy threads. At the same time, a large number of life fruits began to enter his body, carrying out the regeneration of flesh and blood. This was a high-tech treatment. Although the Starfish battleship cost $4 billion, it definitely did not have such a treatment system that could bring the dead back to life. The cost of Hong Heiyu's battleship was 100 times that of the Starfish battleship, so people who were cut in half at the waist could also be saved. Logically speaking, people who were cut in half at the waist would almost certainly die because the central nervous system would be severed. However, Jiang Li's physical strength was tyrannical, and Hong Heiyu was watching at all times. Once something happened, he would immediately come to the rescue, using the powerful holy fetus energy to prevent the injury from worsening, and then using high-tech energy surgery to treat it. After a full hour, Jiang Li's body that had been cut in half at the waist began to recover. With the treatment of powerful scientific and technological means, flesh and blood could be derived, and even the structure of internal organs could be analyzed. All kinds of artificial internal organs could be derived, which were exactly the same as the body structure and operated the various functions of the organs as usual. How does it feel to be cut in half at the waist? Do you feel the horror of death? On the operating table, Jiang Li gradually woke up, and Hong Heiyu smiled faintly at the side. Try standing up and walking a few steps. Jiang Li moved his divine will to check his waist, and found that all the injuries had recovered to their original state. He could not help but let out a long sigh of relief. However, there was still a lingering fear in his heart. He struggled to stand up, moved his body, and felt that his strength was still there. Only then did he gradually get rid of the worry in his heart. He carefully felt the moment when he was cut in half at the waist, and fear appeared in his eyes. He said, "Teacher, I did feel the horror of death just now. I thought I was really going to die, and I almost couldn't control it. My spirit collapsed, and all my cultivation was about to dissipate. Fortunately, you pulled me back from the brink of death." Thinking of the moment when he was cut in half at the waist, he still shuddered. Sure enough, there was great horror between life and death. Everyone is afraid of death, existence, and disappearance. Only when one reaches the stable state can one really see through it and be fearless. But at the moment of death, the bodhisattva also has to forget the cause and effect. Hong Heiyu saw that Jiang Li seemed to have understood something and sighed. When I was cultivating, I'd experienced 100 cuts at the waist and 36 beheadings before I finally had a great enlightenment and resolved the horror from life to death. Now that I think about it, it really feels like a dream. There's also beheadings. Jiang Li could jump back, and his expression became very strange. "Teacher, can we not play this game? Being cut in half at the waist was already scary enough. Do you want me to be beheaded too? Being cut in half at the waist could recover, but being beheaded would be dangerous. Although, with modern technology, as long as the central nervous system and blood vessels were reconnected in time after beheading, people could still recover to their original state, and people could even change their heads but the risk was very high, and few hospitals on Earth were willing to do this kind of surgery. Zhongli did not want to experience the feeling of being beheaded and then reconnected, because he knew that the scene of seeing his body and head separated would have a great impact on his spirit. If he was not careful, his spirit would regress, and he would die completely. Compared to being beheaded, being cut in half at the waist was considered light. You have to be beheaded. I've said it before, cultivating with me, Hong Hei-yu, is like walking around in hell. Hong Hei-yu did not look like he would give Zhongli any chance, and his attitude was firm. If you don't know death, how will you know life? My 10-directional hell Dao is that terrifying. It can be said that no teacher's training in Starry Sky University is as terrifying as mine. In the past, students who trained with me were scared to death, and some even dropped out. But you're different. You're the student I'm most optimistic about, and I must let you experience my 10-directional hell Dao. Are you serious? You're really going to behead me? Zhongli saw Hong Hei-yu's crazy look, and he felt chills all over his body, and he shuddered. Actually, Hong Black Prison's figure was tall and straight, and his appearance could be considered handsome. However, in Zhongli's eyes, it was as if he had seen the king of hell, and he could not help but want to flee immediately. You must be beheaded, Hong Hei-yu said in an unquestionable tone. Then I want to drop out. Zhongli hurriedly evaded. Beheading is really beyond my training limit. In the future, I might have to dig out my heart, cut open my abdomen, pull out my tongue, and open my chest. I feel that I'm too sad, and I definitely won't be able to endure it. That's right, in the future, there will be digging out your heart, cutting open your abdomen, pulling out your tongue, and freezing you. Hong Hei-yu's face was cold. You want to drop out? That's absolutely impossible. It wasn't easy for me to find a student like you, and you have to train with me. The Hell Dao is really about experiencing the cruelty of hell, and when you've tasted the cruelty of hell, you'll know the beauty of the human world. I'm not even allowed to drop out? Zhongli felt that his choice was really a mistake. Hong Hei-yu was really like his name, like a flood, like a dark prison. He couldn't help but take a step back. I really want to drop out. You can't. You can't leave even if you want to. You must be beheaded. Hong Hei-yu still said the same sentence, looking like he was determined to have Zhongli. Then I'll rest for a few years before training with you. Right now, my life force is still weak, and I'll die very easily if I'm beheaded. Zhongli began to take a roundabout way, trying to delay. Cut the crap. Rest for 3 hours, adjust your mood, and then enter Death Valley. Hong Hei-yu said in an unquestionable tone, for this 1 month, you'll be training here. Cut at the waist, behead, dig out your heart. You have to try them all one by one. It's precisely because your life force is weak now that our technology can still simulate your body structure, so we can save you. When you become stronger, technology won't be able to simulate your body structure, so it'll be very difficult to treat you. For a month, I'll be training in Death Valley? Zhongli wailed, feeling that his life was bleak. Chapter 151. In the thick fog, golden light surged wildly. One of Zhongli's arms was cut off, but he was abnormally brave. He grabbed his fallen arm with his other hand, and a voice sounded in his ear. Activate your spirit. Don't let your blood leak. Continue forward. That was Hong Hei-yu's coercion. The cruel cultivation in Death Valley continued like this. In the thick fog of Death Valley, golden light wandered everywhere. These were the sword slaughters. They were left behind by the peerless expert's holy fetus to refine flying swords. Those who encountered them would have their arms, legs, heads, and waist chopped off. Zhongli really didn't want to train like this, but he had no choice. It was all Hong Hei-yu who forced him. He had lost another arm when he entered Death Valley for the second time. He wanted to retreat, but Hong Hei-yu made him continue forward. He had no choice but to brace himself and continue forward. At this moment, he was only about 30 meters deep into Death Valley. He didn't know how long and narrow Death Valley was. Looking down from the sky, he could only see a thick fog shrouding it, and he couldn't see it clearly. The further he went, the more dangerous it became. There were more and more wandering sword slaughters. Especially those sword slaughters. They seemed to have intelligence, and could automatically sense the aura of flesh and blood. They pounced forward wave after wave, wanting to cut his body and absorb his flesh and blood. Another 3-foot-long golden light coiled over like a golden snake. It actually aimed at Jiang Li's neck and wanted to chop off his head. Damn it, chop off my head. Jiang Li absolutely wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. He fiercely jumped to the side, but the golden snake rushed over and actually went around him, cutting off one of his legs. This time, Jiang Li was only left with one leg and one arm. Continue forward. Hong Heiyu shouted from outside. Xing Tian dance gone chi. Fierce will remains. Even if my head is chopped off, I will still dance. Jiang Li gritted his teeth and continued to advance. He used his precise thoughts to control his body secretion, water, and blood to avoid the golden rays. However, as he went deeper, 2 golden rays suddenly flew over and sliced off his other arm and one of his legs. His limbs were all broken, and he could only twitch on the ground. At this time, Hong Heiyu flew up, grabbed him, and brought him, along with his severed arm and leg, into the battleship for treatment in the high-tech operation room. Jiang Li's mind was clear this time, and he seemed to have understood something. Even though his limbs were chopped off by the sword emanations, his expression was serene. He did not feel much pain anymore. He had already experienced being cut in half at the waist, so what if his limbs were chopped off? He once again endured the pain of his body being dismembered. This was exactly the same as the training in hell. It was real. The pain of the physical body is just a change in the material world. If you don't have a heart, then you won't feel any pain even if your bones are ground to ashes. Hell is the human heart. A person's heart has experienced hell, and after leaving hell, it's heaven. Everything comes from the heart. While treating Jiang Li's broken arm, Hong Heiyu explained the mental cultivation method. You value your body too much, so your heart cannot be released. You must know that although the body is the foundation for the heart to appear in the material world, it is also a prison at the same time. Only by breaking through this prison can the heart come into contact with the material world. Another hour passed, and Jiang Li's limbs were all reattached. Then, he applied the fruit of life and injected energy to regenerate his various cells. It was perfect. The medical room on Hong Heiyu's battleship was almost the most advanced technology of the human race. There were no instruments for surgery, and it was all done with energy. He was a member of the upper echelons of the human race, and this battleship was built with everything he had. He definitely had many life-saving methods. Instructor, the medical room on your battleship is really advanced. Jiang Li stood up again, moved his limbs, and exclaimed, "When can I have one?" When you have cultivated to the embryonic breathing realm and earn more money, your status will also be different. Naturally, you can get the battleship manufacturing group to customize it for you. Of course, you will need to design it yourself. Although Hong Heiyu's training was cruel and merciless, he supported Jiang Li as if he was his own son. This medical surgery is done with energy and photon computers precisely. There are also many man-made materials, such as artificial modified meat, high-tech genetic materials, and neuron manufacturing systems. It is not a simple repair. Such surgery does not exist in the human normal zone. Your 2 surgeries did not have any sequelae at all. If they were done in the elite zone, one surgery would probably cost more than 100 million. In that case, my 2 surgeries cost 200 million. Jiang Li clicked his tongue. He knew that it was very difficult to do this kind of surgery without any sequelae. The large hospitals in the normal zones could protect your life, but it was impossible to not have any sequelae because the microscopic neurons were destroyed. Especially when Jiang Li had been cut in half at the waist, it had directly damaged his central nervous system. I'll give you 2 hours. Clear your mind and enter again. At this moment, Hong Heiyu finished his treatment. You don't have to worry about the cost of the treatment. In order to nurture you, I can even afford 10 billion, let alone 200 million. You just need to train now. Keep training. Instructor, I have been training time and time again, but my vitality has not increased. Jiang Li was still trying to convince Hong Heiyu. Your vitality can be easily increased. You can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Even if you can't, I can provide you with a large number of spiritual stones. Hong Hei roared. What I need is for your spiritual cultivation to increase. Once your heart is enlightened, everything will follow naturally. Zhongli had nothing to say. He could only rest and continue his training. After being dismembered twice, his spirit felt the terror of life and death. It was as if there was a shadow that he could not get rid of. However, such training had greatly made him look down on himself again. His spirit was restless, and his thoughts were active. He had a feeling of merging with the void. He knew that this hellish training was very fast for the growth of his spiritual power. If it wasn't for instructor Hong Heiyu's nurturing, he would not be able to cultivate like this. 2 hours later, all of his essence, spirit, and spirit had recovered. He walked into Death Valley fearlessly. Soon after, he was cut in half at the waist and rescued by the Floodblack prison. He was in extreme pain, but his expression became more and more peaceful. He had the feeling of being dismembered inch by King Goli in the scriptures when the Buddha was a humiliating immortal in his previous life. The Diamond Sutra said, Subhuti, just like how I cut my body for King Goli in the past. At that time, I had no self, no human, no living beings, and no longevity. Why? When I was dismembered in the past, if there was me, human, living beings, and longevity, there would be hatred. This was seeing through life and death, seeing through time and space. He was dismembered inch by inch, but his heart was peaceful and there was no hatred. He went deeper again and was rescued again and again. Finally, on the third day, he was cut in half at the waist 3 times, his limbs were broken 5 times, and his abdomen was disemboweled 3 times. They were all cut by the sword emanations. Every time, he had a different experience. He also walked further and further in Death Valley. Boom! Just when he was 100 meters away from Death Valley again, a lightning-like golden light flew over. It was extremely fast, surpassing 5 times the speed of sound, and circled around his neck. Puffed. This time, Zhongli experienced a different feeling. He saw his body and head separated. At this moment, his head could no longer control his body, and his body could no longer supply nutrients to his head. His brain cells started to stop working, and endless darkness was born in the depths of his heart. It was as if all his thoughts were going to be pulled into a black hole. His heart was flustered, and he knew that this was the sign of death. Everything he had experienced in his life flashed through his mind like lightning, and it was unprecedentedly clear. If there is an afterlife, the heart is like colored glass, pure and without any impurities. He thought of many sutras and finally stopped in the great emperor seal of the soul. Everything was like a dream, and he felt like he had just woken up from it. At this moment, a figure flashed, and he didn't know anything else. After an unknown period of time, he woke up and saw himself lying on the operating table again. Hong Hei stood upright. How do you feel? You've finally been beheaded. Teacher, how much did it cost for me to be beheaded? When Zhongli woke up, the first thing he asked was this, causing Hong Black Prison to be somewhat surprised. This time, to repair your nerves and central nervous system without any side effects, the various medicines used to treat them cost at least 300 million. Apart from that, I personally stabilize your mind and scattered soul. This is priceless. Hong Black Prison was shocked. He was telling the truth. On Earth, it was very difficult for a wealthy person to hire an intermediate hypnotist. Now, Hong Heiyu could already be considered a super hypnotist. This kind of person could only be found in the elite zone. I asked you, what did you comprehend? Hong Heiyu asked again. I didn't comprehend anything, Zhongli said. What? Then your head has been chopped off. Go and chop it off again. Hong Heiyu was about to grab Jiang Li and throw him into Death Valley again. Jiang Li hurriedly dodged. I said I didn't comprehend anything. Actually, it's not that I didn't comprehend anything, but that I didn't comprehend anything. My comprehension is neither there, neither constant nor impermanent. That's why I said I didn't comprehend anything. Very good. You finally understand some of the mysteries of life and death. Life and death are neither there nor there. Hong Heiyu retracted his hand. However, you still have to enter Death Valley to cultivate. You have 5 hours of rest. Zhongli didn't say anything. He held the Emperor's relic in his mouth and walked out of the battleship. He stood on the empty ground in front of Death Valley and began to breathe. In an instant, all the spiritual energy was absorbed into his body. With him as the center, clouds of mist started to condense around his body. This white mist wasn't water vapor. Instead, it was the spiritual energy of heaven and earth that appeared in the second dimension. Under the effect of the Emperor's relic, it started to condense and condense. Hong Heiyu looked at the white mist that enveloped Zhongli, and his expression showed some excitement. I didn't nurture you in vain. Looks like your spiritual will has improved a lot, and you have comprehended the principle of all forms are not forms. That treasure of yours is really powerful. Absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth like this is almost better than directly using spirit stones. Waves of white mist drilled into Zhongli's body. His whole body was crackling, and his vitality increased again. It increased from 4 to 4. 1. This time, it didn't increase as quickly as the previous time. However, an increase of 0. 1 was still a huge improvement. Chapter 152. In the process of absorbing the spiritual qi, Zhongli also sensed that after these few days of cruel cultivation, being cut at the waist, broken limbs, and even beheaded, his spirit had gradually gained a greater understanding of the process of life and death. He no longer feared death. As for the changes in the instant of life and death, which were terrifying and could cause people to lose themselves, he could now grasp them well. However, he still couldn't completely comprehend the changes of life and death. The state of being indifferent to life and death was more or less the same. Bodhisattvas all had their own mysteries. To cross the waterfall of life and death and cut off all obstacles, his cultivation was still shallow. However, as he cultivated, he meditated on the brain of the universe and the 4 seals of the great emperor. Water, fire, wind, and thunder surged in his body. There were faint sounds like water, fire, wind, and thunder. These were the forms formed by the spiritual qi. There was a long howl. The wind and clouds surged. Zhongli sucked in all the white spiritual qi liquid into his body. The liquid spiritual qi grew a bit stronger. Then he jumped up and started to practice. Suddenly, he clenched his hand into a fist and released it. Instantly, the qi in the air condensed, and in a flash, it actually tore through the air like a bolt of lightning. Then, he flicked his hand again, and a tornado flew out from his palm. His palm transformed into a wind blade, which sliced through the ground in all directions, plowing out numerous ravines. Whoosh! He leaped up, rising from the ground as if he was stepping on an invisible ladder. After a few rises and falls, he was 20 meters in the air. Then his arms shook violently as he descended. As he descended, he exhaled and the air around him surged. These air currents actually turned into flames, making him feel like he was being burned by an invisible flame. Fire, fire, fire. There seemed to be a sound coming from his body. The air currents were like flames. His body rose like a hot air balloon, rising and falling in the air. He became more and more like a human-shaped bird. The great emperor's fire seal circulated to the extreme. The air currents around him changed again as he slowly landed. The air currents surged like raging waves, deafening the ears. The air currents within 5 steps turned into an ocean. Just like that, water, fire, wind, and thunder changed continuously. Zhang Li's control of the air currents reached perfection. His use of Xiantian Gang Qi had already surpassed Meng Xingyu. This martial art is really amazing. Hong Heiyu watched from the side, and he immediately knew that this martial technique simply comprehended the fortune of nature and nurtured the quintessence of the Grand Tao, and it possessed unfathomable and boundless profundities. Every single move was combined with the boundless phenomena of nature, and it was unparalleled in the world. There was no such martial art on Earth. This was an ancient secret art in the starry sky. Stop! When Hong Heiyu saw that Jiangli was cultivating to his heart's content and was at his peak, he interrupted his cultivation and rushed over. What martial art is this? It's a cultivation technique for my monarch relic, the Mind Grand Emperor's seal. Jiangli didn't conceal it. At this moment, he already knew that a figure like Hong Heiyu wouldn't covet his possessions at all. How could someone with such a formidable spirit, a heart that was like hell, and a spirit that swept through the mortal world covet mere worldly possessions? Show me, Hong Heiyu said. With your intelligence, you won't be able to understand this martial art. You can meditate and use your spirit to communicate with me. Yes, teacher, Jiangli agreed without hesitation. He now understood that what was powerful wasn't the martial art, but the human heart. A wave of spiritual will shot out and instantly connected with Hong Heiyu's spirit. They could see each other's thoughts and thoughts. This was the mind communication technique. As long as one was in a meditative state, everything could be done. The universe brain appeared. The monarch's thunder seal, wind seal, fire seal, water seal, all kinds of scriptures, movements, and meditation were all displayed in Hong Heiyu's will. Hong Heiyu's black hair fluttered in the wind, and he looked like a demon god. His clothes fluttered without any wind, and he looked like he could soar into the sky at any moment. After a long time, Jiangli told Hong Heiyu all the changes of the universe brain and the four seals that he had learned. Hong Heiyu didn't move and was still deep in thought. He seemed to have comprehended the way. Jiangli looked at him without blinking. He knew that this martial art would definitely have a huge impact on his spirit. However, Jiangli wasn't worried. Hong Heiyu was already in the embryonic breathing realm and had remarkable powers. His spirit couldn't possibly regress. If it was someone else, they might feel extreme joy turning to sorrow when they first saw this martial art, causing their spirit to regress. That day, Wang Changrong saw this martial art as well. Rumble. After an unknown amount of time, a wave of air appeared from Hong Heiyu's body. A huge energy body appeared from behind him. It was his sacred fetus. It was a combination of the pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth and life energy. It had 3 heads and 6 arms and held all kinds of weapons in its hands. It was either a bow and arrow, a broadsword, a long spear, or a steel fork. It was fierce and ferocious like a ghost from hell. However, this sacred fetus gradually started to shrink. Its body wasn't huge, but it was condensed. This wasn't a decrease in power, but a change in its nature. It was the condensation of power and the strengthening of the spirit. The shrinking of the sacred fetus was a realm that practitioners dreamed of. The sacred fetus was a type of energy. The purer it was, the better. The 2 heads and 4 arms of the sacred fetus with 3 heads and 6 arms gradually melted into its body. It became a normal person and actually looked exactly the same as Hong Heiyu's original body. Moreover, the energy appeared to be dark black and was no longer transparent like before. There was already a hint of Hong Heiyu's virtual projection. Even if Jiangli didn't know how to practice, he knew that Hong Heiyu had already returned to his original state. Although the original sacred fetus was terrifying and ferocious and seemed to have great power, in reality, the energy wasn't condensed. Now that the sacred fetus had condensed into a person that was exactly the same size as his original body, it was equivalent to his second Jiangli. The sacred fetus energy was condensed, but its power increased tenfold. Jiangli could even feel that some of the energy inside was producing a strong power, similar to nuclear fusion. The impact of this great spirit emperor seal on me is indeed extraordinary. I understand the sky, the universe, the earth, the human heart, the resplendent stars, and the brilliant Milky Way. Hong Heiyu slowly kept the sacred fetus into his body. His aura changed once again, and he had the feeling of a saint. Faintly, Jiangli could feel that there was golden light flowing in the second dimension behind him. This had the feeling of perfection. My 10-directional hell, Tao, has finally been perfected. Hong Heiyu slowly said again, actually, everyone in the mortal world has a hell in their heart. Jiangli was speechless. His realm was very different from Hong Heiyu's. so he couldn't understand what realm Hong Heiyu was at. This time, it's all thanks to your great spirit Emperor Seal. It allowed me to break through the barrier that I couldn't break through for a long time. Hong Heiyu grabbed out, and the fog in Death Valley instantly surged. That Gue Junzi can no longer suppress me. On the contrary, I can completely kill him. The enlightenment of the heart is like the difference between heaven and earth. With a single thought, I can become a living being, and with a single thought, I can become a god. Then, teacher, I don't need to train anymore, right? Zhongli said carefully. Bullsh asterisk T. Hong Heiyu roared. You have to train, and I have to train you even more fiercely and more cruelly. This, Zhongli couldn't put it into words. He really didn't want to experience the training of being beheaded, cut at the waist, disemboweled, dug out, and dismembered inch by inch. Although this was very helpful to his soul, the path of civil and martial arts was always tense and relaxed. He felt that his soul needed to rest. Now, his soul was like a bowstring that was pulled very tight and could break at any time. In the game of life and death, if his soul retreated, he wouldn't be able to cry even if he wanted to. You don't have to cry. This is a necessary experience for cultivation. Other people don't have such good resources, so there's no way for them to undergo such hellish training. Hong Heiyu was speaking the truth. Without his help, others would have died many times during this training. I will tell you the main purpose of this training. Hong Heiyu slowly sat down. Only when your soul is strong can you subdue the flying sword that is about to be born. The flying sword that is about to be born? Zhongli was stunned. Then he understood. Could it be that there are many secrets in this Death Valley? Senior cultivators practiced swordsmanship and even left flying swords in here? That's right. Hong Heiyu's eyes scanned the various changes in Death Valley. Many years ago, an extremely strong cultivator practiced swordsmanship here. His cultivation was in the realm of meditation and had already forgotten the shackles of time and space. His soul was about to show its divinity. The flying sword that such a person practiced was already a sword of energy, which is also a spiritual sword. It is very difficult to subdue. Spiritual sword, impressive. Zhongli slowly let out a breath. In the cultivation world, in his dream, there was an introduction about spiritual swords. It was a flying sword that was repeatedly tempered and finally refined into a sword aura. It was a pure energy body. Such a flying sword was called a spiritual sword. It was ever-changing and could turn into 1,000 layers of sword net. It could also turn into an energy ball that enveloped the user and flew at high speed. This was also the art of sword flight, which could travel 1,000 miles in an instant. However, such a spiritual sword could only be successfully refined by people with extremely high cultivation. Moreover, it required a large number of metal attribute spirit stones. Refining it day and night would take at least 100 years or even a few hundred years of hard work. Moreover, during the refining process, there were many tribulations. For example, when a spiritual sword was formed, a large amount of metal attribute aura would attract heavenly thunder, and there would immediately be violent thunder and lightning. Many experts would be directly struck to death. Therefore, even in the cultivation world in Jiang Li's dream, there were very few spiritual swords. Every spiritual sword contained a large amount of energy and could cut through battleships. This was because when a spiritual sword was tempered to the last moment, when the metal substance was transformed into an energy body, it would gather a large amount of electric ions in the air and form a thunderstorm. In an instant, heavenly thunder would roll, and a large amount of thunder and lightning would gather on the sword, causing a huge reaction similar to nuclear fission. Only then could matter be transformed into energy. In Jiang Li's dream, a peerless expert had refined a spiritual sword. Within a radius of 100 miles, everything was wrapped in thunder and lightning, shaking incessantly and turning into powder. This wasn't something that Meng Xingyun's flying sword or those cultivator disciples' flying swords could compare to. With a spiritual sword in hand, it could completely cut through a starfish battleship, let alone a sonic mecha. Is there really a spiritual sword in this valley? Jiang Li's mood became excited. Of course there is. Apart from that, there are also some flying swords. That expert left many flying swords, and the king of flying swords is a spiritual sword. I originally wanted to obtain it and use it to kill Gue Junzi, but I couldn't subdue it and I couldn't find any traces of it. But now I have some confidence. Hong Heiyu said, I've decided to use your body as a container and lay a seal so that you can seal that spiritual sword. Chapter 153. Using my body as a vessel? Sealing the spirit swords? That's like putting a few nuclear reactors in my body. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Jiangli was a little scared, but he couldn't be blamed. In his memory, when the spirit swords were born, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Every attack was equivalent to an intercontinental missile. Furthermore, the spirit swords needed to absorb a large amount of spirit chi from heaven and earth every day. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to afford it, and the spirit stones spent would be like running water. In the past, there was a problem, and I wasn't confident. But now that my cultivation has skyrocketed and my mind has improved to another level, coupled with this battleship that I've built with all my wealth, and there's an energy furnace in it, I should be able to suppress it. In addition to your Grand Emperor relic, there seems to be something special about it. Hong Black Prison was in high spirits. His previous violence had been swept away, and he was in high spirits after encountering a joyous occasion. My Grand Emperor relic's internal space. Jiangli opened up the Grand Emperor relic's internal space, and instantly, a wave of spirit chi rushed out. It was 1,000 square meters, and it was 10 meters tall. It was a huge storage room. Grotto heaven-level artifact. Hong Heiyu stared at the space. This is the space-folding technology that humans have been dreaming of. It hasn't been put into production yet, so it can't be used at all. My Grand Emperor relic's internal space originally didn't have one, but every time I do a wormhole jump, it absorbs energy and starts to expand. Recently, I want to inject more energy into the Grand Emperor relic, but I don't know how. Jiangli suddenly thought that Hong Heiyu might be able to help the Grand Emperor relic inject energy into the wormhole jump. Doing a wormhole jump will expand the space and absorb energy. As expected, Hong Heiyu's cultivation was deeper than Jiangli's, and he was more knowledgeable and scientific. He was also a great scientist, and with his brain, it was easy for him to study science. The battleship was designed by him. The space-folding technology that humans are researching is also developing in this direction. This is a good opportunity. In the future, I will study the Grand Emperor relic and use the wormhole to create a base to charge it. It will definitely expand the space, and maybe my research can help humans improve their space-folding technology. That's a huge fortune. It's even more invincible than the essence of the sun and moon. Jiangli sighed emotionally. If his mentor could solve the problem of space-folding technology, he would become the richest man in the world in the blink of an eye. Sun and moon essence? Hong Heiyu's tone became slow. Your father used to be the chief scientist of the Sun and Moon Group's Jiang family, who researched the essence of the sun and moon, right? I looked into this. Now, he is also preparing to research the essence of the sun and moon on Earth, cooperating with Zhang Anquan's group. Zhang Anquan is quite a character, but this requires powerful equipment. Going to the moon base and extracting the true essence from the space station near the sun is very difficult. Instructor, so you know the ins and outs of my family. Jiangli wasn't surprised. Every Starry Sky University student's family information was recorded. They must have a clean background to prevent some alien natives from sneaking in. The essence of the sun and moon has great research value. Once it's successfully listed on the market, it won't be difficult to become the richest man in the world. You have a lot of potential. Earn more money at Starry Sky University to support your father's research. Hong Heiyu patted his shoulder. This Emperor relic has a hidden space inside, which makes things a lot easier. Originally, when the Spirit Sword was born, I only had a 50% chance of subduing it, but with this space, I have a 100% chance of getting it. Don't tell me you're using the space to store the Spirit Sword. Jiangli immediately understood. Smart. Hong Heiyu walked to the front of Death Valley. His eyes shot out a beam of light that pierced through the thick fog, and he immediately saw the depths of the valley. Jiang Li went up to observe and found that the ground in the depths of the valley was actually a kind of pitch-black stone that was as hard as diamond. The entire valley was long and narrow, deep and gloomy. There were gusts of chilly wind, and there was no light. Some wandering golden rays seeped out from the ground and drilled down, giving off a feeling of hell. Even with Hong Heiyu's divine power, he couldn't shine into the depths of the valley. It was unknown what was inside the valley. It was still filled with thick fog, and it was pitch black. Jiang Li could vaguely see a huge stone door embedded in the depths of the mountain. There were all kinds of drawings on the stone, all of which were human figures that were performing all kinds of stabbing sword moves. They were explosive like thunder, moving like the wind, and graceful like a dance. There must be a huge and terrifying thing hidden in the depths of the stone door. In the depths of the valley, there's a cave abode. The cave abode constantly emits a huge sword aura, sealing the entire valley and even affecting the gravity in this area. Even if we use warships to bombard it, it can't do anything. Hong Heiyu said, but every 10 years, when the planets outside the Emperor Star revolve to a certain orbit, the cave abode will open and absorb the power of the planets, nurturing flying swords inside and refining the body. There are indeed some ancient things on the Emperor Star. I wonder if there are any on Earth. Jiang Li was very curious. There will probably be some changes in the weather over the next few nights. The planets near the Emperor Star will gather together because of their orbit. We'll have to wait patiently. Hong Heiyu tapped on the optical computer chip on his wrist again. Instantly, many star maps appeared. One of them was the current Emperor Star. Many planets revolved around the Emperor Star, pulling each other and forming a huge mechanical orbit in the void. Jiang Li studied astronomy and knew that the orbit of these planets was very important. Even at certain special times, the gravitational field of the planets would change, and it could even have an immeasurable impact on the human body. If a person cultivates to the meditative state, their strong spirit can merge with the orbit of the planets. They will become one with nature and forget about themselves. Their body will no longer be a body, but a planet. A vast power will be added to the body, and a person will almost have endless divine powers. Their vitality will easily exceed 100 because their body is a part of the void. Every move they make can absorb the power of the universe for their own use. With a thought, the wind and clouds will change, and snow will cover the land. Hong Black Prison didn't force Jiang Li to cultivate anymore. Instead, he explained some of the following realms to him. The cultivators of the meditative tranquil realm, when they refine magic treasures, they directly use the gravity of the entire planet to refine them. This type of magic treasure also has a part of the characteristics of being one with the world. Could it be? A thought rose in Jiang Li's mind. Could the gravity here be artificially changed? Can a meditative master change the gravity of a place? Not bad. It seems like you've learned a lot. Hong Heiyu sighed. Changing gravity with your body as the center is one of the abilities. Because your spirit will merge with the entire planet, many mysteries will be produced. At that time, you will truly have divine powers and boundless dharmic powers. The 4 seasons will change with a thought. The natives on the Emperor Star don't have such a powerful person, right? I saw on the wanted list of Starry Sky University that the dean of the De Qian Academy, Chun Tianshu, is only at the mixed essence breath realm. If he ascends to the meditative state, our Starry Sky University's base will be attacked. Jiang Li didn't hide anything from Hong Heiyu. Chun Tianshu. Hong Heiyu's aura changed again. When he heard this name, he seemed to have a different kind of emotion. He's a powerful person, a peerless talent. Unfortunately, he's not humans of Earth. People of different paths cannot work together. If humans of Earth continue to accumulate and develop on the Emperor Star, we will fight him one day. The resources on the entire Emperor Star are unbelievably abundant. Jiang Li knew that every blade of grass and tree on the Emperor Star was a valuable asset to humans. Under the influence of the huge gravity, even wood was a precious material, not to mention some medicinal herbs and rare treasures. He could casually bring some grass and trees back from the Emperor Star and make a fortune. Of course, he looked down on these small fights. All right, there are many flaws in your great Emperor's seal. Let me guide you to perfect it. Hong Heiyu grabbed at the air and began to practice the Great Emperor Thunder Seal. As he struck the air, the friction in the air produced sizzling lightning that struck the ground, scorching it. Jiang Li was delighted and immediately began to cultivate. At that moment, Hong Heiyu used his own understanding to guide him on the Great Emperor's seal. Indeed, many details were perfect and his vision was different. Jiang Li cultivated nonstop for a few days and gradually felt that he had mastered the 4 seals. His martial arts cultivation rose to the next level. During this period of time, Hong Heiyu still forced him to enter the valley to cultivate. However, he had experience dealing with some sword emanations. With his increased martial arts experience, he roamed the valley and became more and more experienced in avoiding the sword emanations. Unfortunately, Hong Heiyu kept forcing him deeper into the valley. In the end, the sword emanations in the depths of the valley became more and more ferocious. Several times, he was cut at the waist. Once, he was not only beheaded, but he was also almost cut in half. When he was almost cut in half, his head was still fine. He tilted his head, and his body was cut in half from the shoulder. This time, it was the most painful and thrilling experience he had ever had. He watched as his body was split apart and some of his internal organs were cut. At that moment, Hong Heiyu flew over and wrapped himself with a holy fetus. He used large amounts of live fruits and all sorts of artificial flesh to heal. These artificial flesh and blood were in fact exactly the same as human flesh and blood. Moreover, they were powerful basic flesh and had the same structure as Jiang Li's body. The AI had simulated Jiang Li's DNA to create these artificial flesh and blood. This kind of surgery that could revive a person and regrow flesh and bones could only be created with the most advanced technology of mankind. Hong Heiyu helped Jiang Li to heal his injuries again. He felt that his disciple was becoming stronger and stronger. He could not help but laugh loudly. The next step, I even want to try it. You will really be cut into pieces. That is, the sword emanations will wrap around your body. In an instant, apart from your head, your body will be reduced to a skeleton. I will then create flesh and bones for you. Buddhism has the white bones view. Visualize your own flesh falling off inch by inch until only your skeleton is left. How about I really let you experience this hellish torture? Even I have not experienced this kind of torture before. What? Jiang Li was about to jump up. Hong Heiyu meant that he would only be left with his head and his entire body would be reduced to bones. This was much worse than beheading him. After walking out of hell time and time again, his heart was indeed very tough. Compared to when he had just started cultivating, he felt that his spiritual power was almost twice as strong. If he returned to Earth to perform hypnosis, he would definitely be able to hypnotize tens of thousands of people in one go. Although his realm was not as high as Wang Chongrong's, the number of hypnotized people he had hypnotized surpassed him. Rumble. Just as Hong Heiyu was about to put this idea into practice, there was a sudden tremor from the depths of the valley. The sword was born. Chapter 154. Under the starry sky. The stars were bright, and the mountains and rivers were magnificent. All the clouds had dispersed. Jiang Li looked up and saw that many stars were actually connected into a straight line, forming a chain of pearls. Indistinctly, the force field and energy of the entire planet had changed. However, he didn't feel it clearly. His realm wasn't high enough, and his spirit couldn't become one with the world. Even Hong Heiyu couldn't feel it clearly because his realm wasn't high enough. However, all the clouds in the canyon had dispersed. The starlight shone down, and it seemed especially bright and dazzling. The stars shone brightly, and the starlight fell like a waterfall, forming a beautiful and majestic scene. Even 1,000 miles away, it could be seen clearly. The starlight really formed a substantial waterfall that fell from the sky. This caused Jiang Li to think of an ancient poem, I suspect the Milky Way falling from the 9 heavens. This was the real Milky Way falling from the 9 heavens. The bright and substantial starlight was like a waterfall. As it violently crashed, it really created waves. Once it fell into the canyon, the ground in the depths of the canyon actually started to accumulate the starlight, forming a river that seemed to be flowing like mercury. Spectacular, spectacular, such a strange scene, nature's uncanny workmanship. It's simply a creation of heaven and earth. Zhongli was pleasantly surprised. Seeing such a scene, my life isn't in vain. This isn't the uncanny workmanship of nature, it's man-made. An expert set up a formation to use the weather to absorb the planet's energy. This kind of technology can also be done by humans, but it's very troublesome. Actually, the essence of the sun and moon is also like this, the true essence of the planet. Hong Heiyu looked up at the sky. Pay attention. When the star energy accumulates to the extreme, it will burst open the stone door. At that time, many flying swords hidden in the stone door will appear and fly everywhere. Even if you can't subdue the Sword King's spiritual sword, you can still get a few more flying swords. Ordinary experts need to be fully focused to control one flying sword. Your spirit, Great Emperor Seal, and the brain of the universe's spiritual power are dozens of times that of the same realm. So you can control dozens of swords, and you will definitely be able to defeat others. Zhongli knew the power of the flying swords. They could even cut through a sonic speed mecha. Back then, Jiang Tianhe had suffered great loss. Of course, it was only an ordinary flying sword that broke their sonic mecha. The flying swords in this canyon were all high grade. Although they were not spiritual swords, their sharpness far surpassed that of the ones Jiang Li had encountered before. This was a flying sword refined by a peerless master. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder what kind of flying sword will fly out when the stone door opens. He was a little excited. This was the moment to witness a miracle. Seeing the miracle of cultivation in the light of science and technology had a great impact on his worldview. Finally, the valley was filled with flowing starlight. Voila, voila! The starlight water poured into the stone door, and a rumbling tsunami came from inside. In the middle of the night, Kacha, in the depths of the canyon, a stone door opened. All of the rivers flowed into the depths of the stone door. Jiangli could clearly see that there were a total of 50 rays of light flickering in the depths of the stone door. Among them, 49 were like spirit snakes, and the one in the center was extremely huge, like a golden dragon, giving off an aura that could devour the heaven and earth. Die number 50. With one look, Jiangli knew that the flying swords in the stone door were in line with the Tao of divination. Whoosh! The 50 flying swords formed a massive sword formation that absorbed all of the starlight before rushing out of the stone door. Immediately, sword chi swept out, and the sky was filled with sword light. It was as if they wanted to fly into the sky and devour the entire planet. All right, begin. Hong Heiyu roared. Jiang Li used the Great Emperor relic to subdue the other flying swords. There are a total of 49 flying swords. Subdue as many as you can. I'll deal with the big one. As he spoke, he activated the battleship. The battleship flew up, energy exploded, and a powerful laser cannon shot at the golden dragon. The golden dragon was a long sword that shone with golden light, but it contained extremely powerful energy in its body, causing the energy to overflow, turning it into a golden dragon. It couldn't even get close to the golden dragon before being sliced into pieces by the golden light. The other flying swords were much weaker, but they flowed endlessly like swimming fish. They were extremely intelligent and difficult to capture. Jiang Li's body flickered, and he flew into the Grand Emperor relic, rapidly rising up into the sky. Sword chi crisscrossed, slicing the surface of the Grand Emperor relic, not even leaving a mark. Divine will subdue. Seeing a flying sword that was only a few inches long fly past him, Jiang Li suddenly sent out a powerful psychic wave that swept towards the flying sword. Instantly, the flying sword trembled, as though it was disturbed and stopped. Flying swords weren't machines, but a kind of life form with intelligence. They were made of metal and had the master's psychic imprint. By using psychic power, as long as one could subdue the master's imprint, one could control the flying sword. Flying swords were also sentient beings. Of course, One could also use brute force to subdue them, slowly dissolving the energy within. There were many ways to subdue flying swords. 1. As soon as Jiang Li's psychic power came into contact with the flying sword, he saw that the imprint was actually a devil clad in silver armor. It pounced at him, entering the depths of his mind. A powerful, baleful aura and will attacked him, causing him to feel like his body was frozen. Holy shit, isn't it just a flying sword? Why is the psychic imprint inside so powerful? Fortunately, Jiangli had undergone training. If he had trained in the valley, he would have been instantly attacked by the baleful aura of the flying sword, turning him into a lunatic. Golden spears and armored horses, swallowing 10,000 li kill, rumble. The psychic will in the flying sword changed again. Jiangli saw an endless battlefield, mountains of corpses, seas of blood, ghosts and gods fighting, and the vengeful souls of hell all rushing at him. This is the baleful aura of the flying sword. Legend has it that one has to kill people to train in the sword. After a person dies, the spiritual imprint of baleful aura on the sword will give the sword spirituality. Just how many people did this flying sword kill when it was being forged? Jiangli felt his body turning cold. He couldn't take it anymore. He was in hell and was being bitten by tens of thousands of ghosts. That was the spiritual attack of the flying sword. In ancient times, there was a treasured saber of a great general. After killing many people on the battlefield, the saber would naturally gather a wave of spiritual energy and wouldn't dissipate. It could even be unsheathed at night. As the saying went, Dragon Spring Wall cries every night. Surrender. Zhongli operated the brain of the universe and used his powerful psychic will to dissolve it. He was wrapped in the Grand Emperor's relic, and his psychic will seeped out. The flying sword couldn't cut him, and his body was safe. He could release his psychic will to the fullest. The results of Hong Heiyu's cultivation were finally displayed. Jiang Li's psychic will became stronger and stronger, surging like waves. He ignored all kinds of hellish battles on the battlefield. He had experience being chopped at the waist, beheaded, and dismembered inch by inch. What were the battles on the battlefield to him? Moreover, the chopping at the waist and beheading were real. They happened in the material world and weren't fantasies. Those who could experience such hellish tortures and maintain their psychic were almost indestructible. Jiangli originally thought that Hong Heiyu was torturing him, but now that he was having a spiritual battle with the flying sword, he finally understood Hong Heiyu's good intentions. All kinds of things were like floating clouds. The battles on the battlefield, the golden spears and armored horses, the mountains of corpses and seas of blood were all child's play. Bang! He finally subdued the flying sword and flew into the space of the Grand Emperor's relic. Immediately, he saw that it was a finger-long, small sword. It was sparkling and translucent like a crystal, and there was a dreamy mist changing in the depths of its core. Great! Zhongli snapped his fingers. This is a flying sword. Meng Honyun's flying sword is weak. However, this flying sword couldn't be used by him even though it was kept in the space. If he wanted to use it, he would need to use spirit stones, mix his psychic will, and continuously purify it with blood. Finally, he would pour his psychic will into the flying sword, and there would be a feeling of man and sword becoming one. The sword would be him, and he would be the sword. At that time, with a thought, the sword would fly out and kill in the air. It was the same as using an arm to hit someone. Roar! Just as he subdued this flying sword, a loud roar came, and the other 48 flying swords suddenly fell and flew toward him. Put these flying swords into the depths of the space so they don't hate me. In the middle of the battle with the spirit sword, Hong Heiyu's sky was falling and the earth was splitting. He let out a loud roar and used all his psychic power to subdue the other flying swords. After so many days of training, Zhongli had long since become inseparable with Hong Heiyu. When the flying swords approached him, he also used all his psychic power and temporarily controlled them to fly into his space. Swish, swish, swish. The 48 flying swords flew into the depths of the space like rivers flowing into the sea. Once all 49 of them were gathered, they would immediately start the assassination. In the space, they were like dragons and snakes coiling around. Even Jiang Li's bite was full of vigor and needed to be subdued again. Damn, so powerful? No wonder he needed my space. Jiang Li immediately flew out of the space and closed it. He could only hear the clanking of the flying swords in the space. If Jiang Li was still among them at this moment, he would definitely be dismembered. At this moment, he understood why Hong Heiyu needed his space. Even if these flying swords were subdued, it would only be temporary, and there would be a backlash at any time. Only by completely fusing with his psychic power would they be considered his. Some people obtained other people's flying swords and happily subdued them. They thought that the flying swords wouldn't move, but in the end, when their psychic power was lacking, the flying swords would suddenly shoot up and kill them. Many people died from the backlash of the flying swords. Even a battleship couldn't suppress these flying swords. If Jiang Li put the flying swords in the battleship, they would cause destruction in the depths of the battleship, and it would cause a disaster. Only the space of the Grand Emperor relic could imprison them. These flying swords were strong, very strong. However, the strongest was the golden dragon in the sky. Hong Heiyu piloted the battleship and used his sacred art to fight it with all his strength, but he actually didn't gain any advantage. In the sky, there was a huge explosion of energy. It was like a modern war. The earth shook and the air exploded. I wonder if teacher can subdue this spirit sword. Jiang Li didn't feel confident. Just as the battle was getting intense, he suddenly felt something in his heart. He hurriedly looked up into the depths of the sky, only to feel the scenery disappear, and a figure walked out from the depths of space. It was a scholar, a great Confucian, a scholar who bemoaned the state of the universe and pitted the fate of mankind, a scholar who saved the world from disaster. He just appeared out of nowhere. His figure was tall and straight, and when he saw Hong Black Prison fighting with the spiritual sword, he grabbed it. The spiritual sword let out a draconic roar and landed in his palm, appearing extremely docile. Chen Tianshu. Jiang Li almost suffocated. This scholar was actually the #1 enemy of Star Sky University, the native to Qian Empire, the dean of the academy, the person who always wanted to destroy Star Sky University's base. It's over. This was the only word in Jiang Li's mind. Chapter 155. Chen Tianshu was still fresh in Jiang Li's mind. This person was #1 on the Photon supercomputer's wanted list, but he was an absolute powerhouse. Moreover, Jiang Li had never regarded this person as a wanted criminal, but as the leader of the enemy, an invincible overlord. Humans were always curious about powerhouses. Of course, he paid close attention to this person. As expected, as soon as this person appeared, his power was close to that of a god. He walked over from the distant sky and collected the spirit sword with a wave of his hand. His power was boundless and beyond imagination. The sword chi that filled the sky was completely eliminated. Hong Heiyu and the warship slowly descended and looked at Chen Tianshu in the sky. "Master," Jiang Li said hurriedly. "Don't speak." Hong Heiyu's expression was solemn, but he did not look nervous as if he was facing a great enemy. Instead, he seemed sad and happy, which made Jiang Li feel strange. Based on his understanding of Hong Heiyu, he should have left immediately to escape pursuit. There was no reason for him to stay. Chen Tianshu collected the spirit sword and slowly descended. His aura was completely gone. He was like a scholar, standing with his hands behind his back and looking at the starry sky. He looked at Hong Heiyu. The two of them stared at each other without making a move. Hong Heiyu said slowly, "Father-in-law." "What?" Jiang Li shuddered and looked at Hong Heiyu as if he had seen a ghost. One was a human from Earth. The other was a native of an alien planet. They were mortal enemies, but his master actually called him father-in-law. He seemed to realize something. After a moment of shock, he calmed down and said nothing. "You still have the face to call me father-in-law? I handed my daughter to you. Where is she now?" Chen Tianshu looked up at the starry sky. Although his tone was calm, there was a hint of anger in it. "It's my fault," Hong Heiyu admitted frankly. "I was too naive at the time. I thought that humans from Earth and humans from the Emperor Star could get along and gradually resolve their hatred. After all, we are all intelligent beings and can develop the Emperor Star together. Although Rower is my adopted daughter, I view her as my own. Moreover, I am also her master. I have taught her since she was young. Chen Tianshu looked at Death Valley. Back then, when you were cultivating with her here, you were slashed by Sword Chi many times. She was the one who secretly stole the life-prolonging golden pill that I had painstakingly cultivated for 100 years and saved you. Do you remember? I will never dare to forget. Hong Heiyu's tone was also filled with strong longing. Gratitude and grudges were hard to describe. From that day on, I swore that I would destroy you extraterrestrial demons. Chen Tianshu's tone sent a chill down Jiang Li's spine. However, he couldn't move right now. In front of this person, even the Grand Emperor relic would be useless. He was too strong. In the early records of Starry Sky University, this person's vitality was 64, and his realm was the third realm of the embryonic breathing realm, mixed essence breath. That was a record from 20 years ago, but from the looks of it now, it was definitely stronger. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. There are also good people among us humans on Earth. Those who harmed Ro, or were only a small portion of them. I will kill them with my own hands as an offering to Ro-Er's soul in heaven. Hong Heiyu's tone became calm. I hope that father-in-law will not vent his anger on others. This is a clash between two enlightened people. Both sides are destined to die. In my eyes, you're the aggressor. Chen Tianshu took a step forward. A formless pressure almost ruptured Jiang Li's organs. He felt that the whole world was changing. It wasn't a change in his mind, but a change in reality. The gravity around him was increasing. His mind and the great path had merged into one, and he had forgotten his wisdom. With a single thought, the weather had changed. This was the state of meditative forgetfulness, which was also the state of being one with nature. Jiang Li immediately knew that Chen Tianshu was no longer in the embryonic breathing realm, but meditative forgetfulness. This enemy of Starry Sky University was even more terrifying. I hope that there is no barrier between the two. The reputation of the Qian Empire is hard to come by. Those in power can kill and pillage at will, and there are endless wars. Xiao Rou's wish is for the world to be at peace, and for the country to be happy from now on. Hong Heiyu continued to debate. Although we humans on Earth are only the aggressors now, our system has gradually improved. Everything is governed by laws, and those in power cannot kill the people at will. Although there are still loopholes in the laws of human society, everything is changing. Xiao Rou had to admit that the feudal rule of the Qian Empire is far inferior to us humans on Earth. There's no point in talking more. Chen Tianshu waved his sleeves. You humans on Earth will gradually follow our path. This is determined by power. Some of the powerful people will become gods, and the people below them are ants. This is also the truth of the universe. The divine dragon cannot be equal to ants. Father-in-law has finally broken through the embryonic breathing realm and entered meditative forgetfulness, using his own body to suppress the will of the heavens. And this time, he has obtained a spiritual sword. It seems that he wants to launch a counterattack against Starry Sky University. Hong Heiyu changed the topic. He knew that it was futile to argue about the merits and demerits of human society. Everyone had their own path. I have to say, the humans on Earth are indeed powerful, but there will definitely be a time when they will decline. There's no harm in telling you a secret. You humans on Earth are now invading an even more powerful cultivation world. All the experts have gone to that mainland. However, the few elders of the cultivation world came to the Emperor Star and created a diversion. They destroyed the cradle of human experts on Earth, which is this Starry Sky University, causing you to be weak. As long as Starry Sky University is gone, the humans on Earth will not be able to cultivate any more peerless experts in the next 100 years. A vast war is about to begin, and we will launch a counterattack. When that time comes, where will you go? Make your own choice. Chen Tianshu's clothes fluttered in the wind. Jiang Li could feel the raging tide in his body, ready to explode at any time. This scholar was really going to launch a counterattack against the humans on Earth. No matter what, I will always choose to be on the side of the humans on Earth. Hong Heiyu said, because of Xiao Rou's death, there were times when I wanted to rely on you and destroy the humans on Earth. However, I later found out that my roots are on this side. I will only kill the enemies who killed Xiao Rou. I will not take my anger out on others. Everyone has a hell in their hearts. Because of hatred, the scene of hell will appear in the physical world, turning them into demons. My Tao is to make the hell in everyone's hearts disappear. People with different Taos cannot make plans together. Chen Tianshu looked closely at Hong Heiyu. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you? You don't have to ask, father-in-law. I don't even know how many times I've died. Hong Black, prison laughed. 10 directional hell Tao. Father-in-law also knows what this martial art is. This is your disciple. Chen Tianshu no longer threatened. He turned to look at Jiang Li and spoke slowly. Jiang Li suddenly felt as if his heart was suffocating. He was at a loss as to what to do, like a primary school student facing the strictest teacher. It wasn't that his heart wasn't firm, but that the other party was too strong. Unless Jiang Li was stable, he would feel all sorts of negative emotions. Yes, Hong Heiyu only said one word. Not bad, but not like you. Chen Tianshu walked over like an elder. Jiang Li couldn't even retreat. He could only watch helplessly as Chen Tianshu walked up to him. Chen Tianshu was as tall as him, but Jiang Li felt that he was very tall and imposing. He couldn't even see his face when he looked up. Young man, you're not bad. I know you. Chen Tianshu patted Jiang Li on the shoulder. You actually snatched the sacred fetus from Ye Wanxiang. I think that only Hong Heiyu's disciple would do something like that. That sacred fetus is mine. The Dharma treasure on you is also very amazing. As he spoke, Chen Tianshu made a grasping motion. The Grand Emperor relic flew out of Jiang Li's body and into his hand. Chen Tianshu looked the relic up and down, but still couldn't find any clues. Infusing it with spiritual energy was like throwing a rock into the ocean. Infusing it with psychic energy was like throwing a rock into the ocean. It was like a hard, ordinary rock or a sturdy piece of bone. The heavenly heart is my heart. Chen Tianshu suddenly let out a long cry. Instantly, the stars in the sky seemed to become even more resplendent, as if a line of starlight were shining down and stabbing into the Grand Emperor relic. Rumble! Chen Tianshu's whole body trembled, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. It was as if he had seen something terrifying. He flicked his finger and returned the Grand Emperor relic to Jiang Li. It took a long time for him to recover. Curse, he said, letting out a long sigh. An inauspicious artifact. It's an inauspicious artifact. The curse can't be dispelled. Young man, you'd better throw it away or seal it. If you use it again, your soul will become entangled with it, and it will grow deeper and deeper until you can't free yourself. Your cultivation base is still too low, so you shouldn't have a deep connection with it. I know, Jiang Li said. I'll dispel the curse. All living things in the world can understand each other, and all enmities and grudges can be dispelled. There's no enmity that can't be dispelled, and no curse that can't be dispelled. I'm willing to shoulder all of it. Young man, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, Yang Qi said. The same goes for me. You'll understand in the future. In a vast universe, we're insignificant existences. No one is a grand emperor who rules over the starry sky. Even the strongest person will return to the void. Chen Tianshu waved his hand dismissively. The spirit of a scholar is full of vigor. Unfortunately, everything will be swept away by the wind and rain. Young man, you're on your own. In the future, your path will be ours. Whoosh! As he spoke, Chen Tianshu's body slowly rose up. Hong Black Prison, there is still a period of time for you to make a decision. Both you and your disciple are rare talents. I hope that you can change your mind during this period of time and come to my side. He rose to a high altitude and suddenly disappeared into thin air. This was no longer the speed of sound, but a kind of teleportation. After a long time, Jiang Li regained his spirit and said, Teacher, father-in-law is still the same. Hong Heiyu sighed. He's still a scholar. No matter how strong he is, he's never changed. He's not an ambitious person. The great calamity he mentioned? Zhongli asked, is it true that Starry Sky University's base will be attacked? It should be true, he wouldn't lie. Hong Heiyu wasn't afraid at all. No matter what, you have to be strong. Start training. Chapter 156. In Death Valley, all the swords had disappeared, and the gravity had returned to normal. Because the spirit swords had been taken away, the formation here had been destroyed, and this place had become an ordinary valley. Zhongli couldn't train even if he wanted to. But at this moment, he was trying his best to subdue 49 flying swords. These flying swords weren't as powerful as the spirit swords, but they were very powerful. Each one could cut through a mecha with supersonic speed. As long as one's mental power was strong enough, it would be easy to slash at several times the speed of sound. Normal flying swords were just a bit more than the speed of sound. For example, Meng Xingyun's flying sword could only reach 1 to 2 times the speed of sound at full power. And each of these swords was 5 to 6 times the speed of sound, or even faster. Even if he subdued just one of them, it would be enough to grind Meng Xingyun's flying sword to pieces. Moreover, these flying swords were a set. With each additional sword, their power would increase by another level. With 49 flying swords combined, Hong Dart Prison and the battleship's energy could only barely suppress them, and not for long. Ding, ding, dang, dang. As long as Jiang Li's mental power entered the Grand Emperor relic space, he could see the sword chi crisscrossing and stabbing each other. Once released, it would be a disaster. Even Hong Heiyu would be flustered. Teacher, how do I subdue the flying swords inside? My mental power isn't enough to control so many flying swords. Control them one by one. Drip blood as a sacrifice to suppress the sword's spirituality, and then become one with the sword. Your spirit Grand Emperor seal has the might of a Grand Emperor, so subduing these flying swords isn't difficult. This is a kind of training for you. I can help you with this, but it will be one less training for you. Hong Heiyu also sensed that Jiang Li's mental power was crisscrossing and difficult to subdue. He smiled instead. This training is very difficult. Chen Tianshu only took away the spirit swords and left the 49 flying swords for you. These are the child swords. With the child swords, you will have the chance to subdue the mother sword in the future. Of course, with his dignity, he won't steal your things. Zhongli could also see that Chen Tianshu had no intention of stealing his Grand Emperor relic, even though he was observing it. Just like that, the two of them began training here. Their main goal was to subdue flying swords. Every day, Zhongli would use his mind to aim at a flying sword in the depths of space and communicate with it nonstop. At the same time, he would also find an opportunity to take out one of the flying swords. Then, he would use his embryonic breath to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and pour it into the depths of the flying sword. At this time, Hong Heiyu's usefulness showed itself. He didn't help Jiang Li subdue the flying swords. Instead, he directly provided spirit stones. He had a large reserve of spirit stones in his battleship, and he took them out for free to provide for Jiang Li's cultivation. He was rich and extremely powerful. Now that his mental state had improved by a level, it would be easier for him to earn money in the future. With the resources provided by him, Jiang Li also found out how flying swords were refined in the cultivation world. His body and mind were extremely strong, and he used the Great Spirit Emperor imprint to control the mind within the flying swords, making them one with his heart. Every time he refined it and communicated with it, his brain cells and spirit cultivation would be strengthened to the next level. 3 days later, he finally subdued the first flying sword. Wong, that flying sword circled around his body and danced up and down. It was only as thick as a finger and was as fast as lightning. A bright light circled up and down, and Zhongli felt that it was his arm, his organ. Their minds were connected, and it would never betray him again. In the beginning, suppressing a flying sword was called suppression. But now this was called subduing it. It could even be taken a step further. This flying sword could turn into metal attribute energy, and he could refine it into a sword pellet that could fuse into the depths of his bones and change his life. Sore bones, sore man. Of course, this was something for the future. Right now, Zhongli could only control one flying sword to slash up and down. There are 3 realms in refining a sword. The first is command like an arm. The second is illuminated sword heart. And the third is one with the sword. Hong Heiyu said, "You are only at the stage of command like an arm, and you are far from reaching the illuminated sword heart. The so-called illuminated sword heart is when I am cultivating and I forget about myself and everything else. When I encounter danger, the flying sword will automatically go out to slay people. It has intelligence and is equivalent to my own protector." Zhongli immediately followed up. He was very familiar with the sacrificial refining of flying swords. "Kid, you are quite familiar with it." Hong Heiyu smiled and didn't say anything else. "Continue to cultivate. I estimate that with your current mental strength, you can at most subdue 5 flying swords. To completely subdue 49 flying swords, you will at least need to reach Chongding. 5 flying swords is also enough to sweep through the 4 directions and slay everything." Zhongli spat out a breath of air, and the finger-thick small sword landed in his palm like a crystal hairpin. No one could imagine that this small sword could completely slice open a sonic mecha, and even release a sword beam that could sweep through an army of 1,000. "Go!" Zhongli pointed once more. In an instant, the flying sword seemed to teleport away. It cut down a giant serpent dozens of kilometers away, and then it returned. It really had the feeling of 1,000 miles away to find the enemy's head. Of course, under his mental control, this flying sword could only fly for 30 miles at most. Any further would be extremely difficult because his mental strength could only extend so far. Everyone's thoughts were limited in how far they could extend. Under normal circumstances, even experts at Deding would only be able to extend their mental strength by 1 or a few kilometers. To extend it for 30 miles, one would need to reach a very deep level of Deding. In other words, Zhongli's realm wasn't at Deding, but the intensity of his mental strength and mental strength weren't inferior to Deding. He was a high-level hypnotist. "My mental strength can fly for 30 miles. Hong Heiyu was very satisfied. "After receiving my training, your mental strength has increased by a lot. Continue to accumulate like this and become stronger bit by bit. Let me measure your brain cells. What is the frequency of your brain waves?" He turned on his optical computer and began to check. A shocking number appeared. "Your brain frequency is 100,000 times that of an ordinary person and more than 10 times that of a Deding expert." Hong Heiyu finished his check. "In other words, if you go back now, you can hypnotize 100,000 people in one go. When I go back, I can become rich just by hypnotizing people." Zhongli couldn't help but laugh. "Look at you. That's all you've got?" Hong Heiyu took out a spirit stone. "Accumulate your mental strength and subdue 5 flying swords. Your mental strength will continue to grow. These flying swords contain the mental strength of the previous owner. After you subdue them, the formless mental strength will become yours. This isn't just a little bit of growth. All right, I will continue subduing them." The blood secreted from Jiang Li's finger mixed with the spirit stone and seeped into the Grand Emperor relic space. He continued his grand task of subduing the flying swords. Another month passed. A teacher and a student. They cultivated in front of Death Valley, forgetting everything else. Zhongli would experience something new every day. Hong Heiyu was wholeheartedly nurturing him. The teacher and disciple studied the mind Great Emperor Seal together. They were completely immersed in martial arts. In this 1 month, Zhongli completely digested the training in Death Valley. Beheading, cutting at the waist, disemboweling, digging out the heart, and all the other hellish tortures were completely eliminated. What was left was only indifference to life and death. After subduing the 5 flying swords, his mental strength increased once again. The range of his mental strength could extend to 50 li, almost doubling. The foundation of mental strength was the brain cells. Brain cells were also a part of life force. Therefore, his life force was also rising steadily. After absorbing large amounts of heaven and earth spiritual energy and using spirit stones, even his blood was changing. During the refinement process, the metal energy of the flying swords seeped into his bones, causing them to have a faint layer of gold. His bones seemed to have started to transform into a metal-type existence. This kind of bone was truly reinforced iron. It increased his jumping ability, bearing capacity, toughness, and explosive power by several times. His vitality had been tested and it had reached 48. This vitality gradually revealed his tyrannical side. With a wave of his hand, astral energy shot out in all directions. When he struck in the air, the wind and clouds surged. In the air, he could even control the airflow to run for a short period of time. And Hong Heiyu's cultivation was even more powerful. After obtaining the cultivation method of the Mind Great Emperor Seal, he was no longer as dark as before. Instead, he was peaceful and auspicious. He was like a great bodhisattva from hell who had obtained the Tao of Mahakasyapa. An aura as vast as the sea and as steady as a mountain was emitted from his body. Zhongli didn't know what level his teacher had reached, but he knew that his teacher's epiphany would raise his spiritual cultivation by a huge realm. For people like them, raising their realm was harder than ascending to the heavens. But once they did, it would be a qualitative leap. It wasn't impossible for them to be 10 times stronger than before. Rumble. Hong Heiyu began to cultivate. At night, he suddenly inhaled and exhaled. Immediately, with himself as the center, the space within a few kilometers around him rippled. Countless white mists appeared out of nowhere. These white mists surged violently and whistled towards Hong Heiyu's body. The white mists were the heaven and earth spiritual energy that seeped out from the second dimension. They were pulled out by Hong Heiyu's powerful mental strength. This kind of cultivation was simply earth-shattering. Swallowing clouds and spitting out mists was no different from the legendary immortals. Just like that, he continuously inhaled and exhaled for a whole night before stopping. Zhongli calculated. The white mists that were condensed from the spiritual energy could probably be condensed into a small pool. When they were all absorbed into Hong Heiyu's body, it was like a small river flowing into the sea. There was no sign of saturation at all. With this kind of throughput, how strong is the energy contained in the body? Zhongli was secretly shocked. Even a human-shaped nuclear reactor wasn't enough to describe it. In reality, people who had reached the embryonic breathing realm would be closely monitored by the human government. This was because such people's destructive power was too strong. They could casually wipe out an army, tear apart any mecha, and destroy battleships. When the energy contained in their bodies exploded, they could destroy cities. Hong Heiyu was in the deep middle embryonic breathing realm, but he wasn't an expert who had just entered the embryonic breathing realm. You have subdued 5 flying swords, and your vitality has reached 48. We can go back. This time's cultivation has come to an end. You are free to do whatever you want. Let me try out the power of the 5 flying swords. Zhongli suddenly moved. 5 streaks of lightning flew out from his body. With a flash, it became a sky full of sword rain. It enveloped a huge rock 10 miles away. This rock was very hard, but under the sky full of sword rain, it immediately turned into dust. The sword lights swept past like locusts, leaving only the flying powder in the sky. Good, 5 flying swords. The power is indeed strong. Hong Heiyu couldn't help but exclaim, even a mecha with the speed of sound would be turned into dust in one blow. When you have subdued 49 flying swords, that power can even tear apart battleships. Chapter 157. The 5 flying swords fell into Jiang Li's hand with a long hum. They looked like 5 exquisite crystal hairpins. He could grab them with one hand. He could also put them in his pocket or even stick them in his hair. Of course, Jiang Li's hair was short, so he would have to wait for his hair to grow longer. They're really powerful. How much would one of these flying swords cost? Jiang Li asked Hong Heiyu. He actually wanted to sell them for money. They're much more expensive than the Starfish battleship. Even the big shots in the elite zone would fight over them. There's basically no such thing on the market now. Even if there were, it would be sold out. They're priceless treasures. Hong Heiyu checked the information on the optical computer. Things like flying swords can be sold in the online auction house of Star Sky University, but each one is unbelievably expensive. This is because they're different from guns. After years of refinement, they can gradually transform into energy and integrate into the body. After becoming one with the sword, your life force will increase tremendously. There were many modern weapons that looked more powerful than flying swords. However, the flying sword was more expensive than them because the flying sword could be integrated into the body in the end. Moreover, in a long-term sacrificial refining process, the human body would be infected by the metal spiritual chi of the flying sword, and it would become stronger and stronger. Its vitality and lethality would increase significantly. For example, if you obtained a flying sword and cultivated it every day while others cultivated normally without a flying sword, then after a year and a half, the person with a flying sword would have significantly higher life force than the person without a flying sword. Flying swords were also beneficial for cultivation. They could strengthen the metal structure of the body and change the form of life. This was the power of a sword immortal. The reason why Jiang Li's life force increased so quickly was because he had subdued the 5 flying swords and refined them with spirit stones day and night. His body was also contaminated with sword energy. Under his skin, there was a layer of basified flesh. The layer was originally green, but now it was tinged with faint silver and gold. That was the aura of metal, and its defense was extremely high. Ordinary swords couldn't even cut his body. As he refined more and more flying swords, his body would undergo a qualitative change, becoming a different kind of high-level flesh and blood, similar to metal. This was the beginning of genetic change. Of course, this wasn't the evil path. It was the orthodox path, because the Buddha had the 6 feet golden body. The golden body, the immortality of the metal, was the beginning of immortality. The cultivation session came to an end. Hong Heiyu and Jiang Li boarded the battleship and returned to the human base. Jiang Li's strength had increased by leaps and bounds, but he couldn't use the space in the Grand Emperor's relic anymore. That was because there were 44 flying swords in the depths of the space, and they were constantly stabbing at him. Spatial sword chi was everywhere, and anyone or anything that got sucked into it would be sliced into pieces. Therefore, this space could be considered useless. It could neither store items nor hide people in it. Of course, sooner or later, Jiang Li would subdue all 49 flying swords, and then the space would be freed. If I go to Earth's black market now, I'll probably be invincible, right? Sonic Mecha? I can cut you into pieces from 50 miles away. Jiang Li had the thought of returning to Earth and completely driving the Jiang family out of the black market. With his current strength, he indeed had the ability to do so. However, it wasn't the holiday season at Star Sky University, and he couldn't ask for leave to go back. Back at the human base, he turned on the optical computer and contacted Dahei. Dahei appeared, its body bigger than before, like a fierce tiger, dark and heavy. Its body was at least a ton. The horn on its head emitted lightning, and its fur was glossy and shiny. It wasn't a black cat at all, but a mutated monster. Jiang Li could feel the aura and power exuding from its body even through the network. Jiang Li, what's up? Dahei said lazily. Next to it, the Flower Mask King, Demeng, and the other cats scrambled to climb onto the screen, waving their paws. Jiang Li, how are you doing at Star Sky University? Stop it. The big cat twisted its chubby body, sweeping the other cats aside with its tail. Jiang Li, are you here to ask about the Sun and Moon Group? Now the Sun and Moon Group has retaken control of the black market, and it's getting bigger and bigger. They have 10 sonic mechas and a high-level hypnotist, but I can't find out who the hypnotist is. We're not in the black market now, in case the hypnotist finds out. I know the Jiang family will retake the black market. Jiang Li's eyes flashed. But don't worry, I will be back at the end of this semester. At that time, I will destroy them all. 10 sonic mechas. They can indeed do whatever they want, but they're definitely not my opponent. What? Dahei's chubby body jumped up, extremely flexible. You have grown to this level? Star Sky University is so amazing? Yes, I found a good teacher, Jiang Li. When I come back, you will follow me to the Emperor's Star. We will train together. Your cultivation will be faster. No problem. The big black tiger roared. My genetic research is going pretty well now. My body shape is gradually changing, but it's a pity that I don't have enough money. The 100 million you transferred to me last time, I only managed to achieve some results before it's all gone. Hurry up, transfer me money. Money, I need money. His expression was greedy, changing from a lucky cat to a greedy cat. Big brother, I also don't have money. The mentor invested billions on me, and now I have subdued a few flying swords. I need spirit stones. You wait, I will work hard to make money. Jiang Li checked his card. It was empty, only a few 100,000 left. This amount of money couldn't do anything. He couldn't ask his mentor for money. He wasn't Hong Heiyu's biological son, although Hong Black Prison now seemed to treat him like his own son. Asking him for money was simply the behavior of a beast. Of course, Jiang Li was definitely not the kind of person who would ask for money. Money must be earned openly. There were many opportunities to make money in Star Sky University. Let's see what missions are available. Jiang Li searched the mission list. There were all kinds of strange missions, and he could find ways to make money from them. Moreover, there were too many treasures and resources on the Emperor's Star. He could casually go out and find a lot of things that could be sold for money. I have the space. I can carry a lot of things. Even if I pick herbs, I can still make money. Jiang Li found a few good missions, but he suddenly remembered that he couldn't use the space anymore. He sighed. Such a large space allowed him to carry a lot of resources, and he could go to many dangerous places, even into volcanoes and magma. But now, he needed a battleship. In other words, his ability to make money was greatly reduced, and many of his plans fell through. On the optical computer, there were many types of missions for Star Sky University. Those that wanted to make money required him to enter dangerous areas. Even a battleship could be destroyed, but with the Great Emperor's Relic, there was almost no force that could destroy it. Unfortunately, he couldn't use it. Many of Jiang Li's abilities were sealed. He could only find other ways to make money. The teacher didn't arrange for me to train these days and let me move around freely. I wonder how my teammates are. Their burns should be healed. He immediately contacted Li Zhen and the others. But the reply was, training with the teacher, optical computer on standby. It turned out that Hong Heiyu had gone to train them. Now, because Jiang Li was very strong, Hong Black Prison had to give him individual training in order to have any results. The other teammates had to undergo separate training. Oh my God, I wish you all good luck. Jiang Li drew a cross on his chest. He remembered training with Hong Heiyu when he was cut in half at the waist and beheaded. It still felt like a dream. He could almost see the miserable training of his disciples, but Hong Heiyu would never let them die. As long as they could survive, they would surely have great achievements. I'll be free these days. I'll think of ways to train and raise my cultivation while earning money. I'll go complete some herb-gathering missions. There are many treasures on the Imperial Star, and some are even more effective than the Fruit of Life. Jiang Li couldn't even afford the Fruit of Life. Star Sky University's students had to carry the Fruit of Life with them. Otherwise, it would be too late if they encountered danger. This is the mission. Go to the Black Dragon Pond to collect the dragon-seeking grass. Suddenly, Jiang Li found a mission that was suitable for him. It was a place called the Black Dragon Pond. There was a plant called the dragon-seeking grass that grew there. It was very nutritious and contained powerful energy. It was of a higher grade than the Fruit of Life and was very expensive. But the dragon-seeking grass was the food of a black dragon, so it was very dangerous to go there. Moreover, he had to go very deep in the water to obtain it. The black dragon wasn't a real dragon, but a giant snake. The Black Dragon Pond wasn't a deep pond, but a huge lake that spanned hundreds of thousands of square kilometers. There was once a student who drove a battleship down there, but the battleship was sunk by the giant snake. Therefore, those who wanted to collect the dragon-seeking grass had to sneak in silently. They had to drive a battleship or even a mecha. If they alerted the black snake, they would definitely die. It was very dangerous to dive in with one's body. Not to mention the water pressure, there were turbulent undercurrents and other hidden monsters. There was a high chance that one wouldn't be able to return. However, Jiangli could rest underwater and absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Moreover, he had the protection of his flying sword. It was the most suitable place to collect the dragon-seeking grass. Each dragon-seeking grass was extremely expensive. He could use it himself. After consuming it, there would be an additional dragon breath in his body. This was also a special kind of energy. Those who consumed it could improve their physique and make their bloodline stronger. They would also have some legendary dragon attributes. This grass was now used in scientific experiments and made into many precious medicines. Unfortunately, they were only circulated in the elite zone. Jiangli knew that the dragon-seeking grass was also a treasure in the cultivation world. The dragon breath it contained could neutralize the spiritual qi of the flying sword's metal attribute, allowing him to further fuse with the flying sword. In the future, there was hope for him to refine the flying sword and fuse it into his body. Therefore, this was killing two birds with one stone. Let's go to the Black Dragon Pond. He was about to move, but at this moment, the door to the room was suddenly opened. A few people in white armor walked in. You are Jiangli, right? There's one thing that we have to investigate. Chapter 158. Investigate me? What's the matter? Seeing several investigators walk in, Jiangli was surprised at first, but then calmed down. The people in white armor represented Star Sky University's law enforcement team. Some of them were senior students, some were soldiers of Star Sky University. Each of them was very strong. The white armor was a special type of mecha that could move at the speed of sound. It could even penetrate a building in an instant. Investigators were a special group of people in Star Sky University. They represented the school's rules and laws, and no one dared to offend them. It's about LV Jean. You rescued LV Jean, but there are many suspicious points. We must investigate you. A soldier in white armor came forward. With a shake of his hand, handcuffs and ankle cuffs appeared. Put them on yourself. Bang! The handcuffs and ankle cuffs fell to the ground, making a violent sound. They were heavy and seemed to be made of special metal. Moreover, they contained extremely strong electric energy. Jiangli recognized that this was a special torture device of Star Sky University. Once put on, the person would not be able to resist and would be completely at the mercy of others. Because as long as one moved, it would release a high-voltage current and knock the person out. He would never wear this kind of thing. Moreover, he didn't commit any crime and save people. How could he be investigated? And he had to wear the torture device. Outrageous. I will not wear this kind of thing. Jiangli began to feel angry, but he suppressed it. I have credit for saving people. Why do I need to wear this thing? Did I commit a crime? Whether you're guilty or not is not something you can say. We need to investigate to determine. Now that you are a criminal suspect, it is normal for you to wear the torture device. This is the normal procedure of Star Sky University. Do you want to be expelled? A soldier in white armor suddenly shouted. Student does not follow the procedure and does not accept the investigation. The first thing we will do is to cancel your student status. Think about it. You worked so hard to get into Star Sky University. Is it worth it to ruin your future because of this? Cancel my student status? Why don't you try canceling it? What kind of person was Jiangli? His mind was calm. He had experience being cut in half at the waist and beheaded. Why would he be afraid of the threat of canceling his student status? You got guts. A soldier was taken aback. He didn't expect that Jiangli would not be intimidated. He couldn't help but sneer. Troublemaker. There are many students like him who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Why bother? Since you don't want to put on yourself, we'll have to do it for you. Kacha kacha. The warrior suddenly erupted with power, and the engine in his armor erupted with an earth-shattering might. Wait, I can go with you, but I won't wear this thing. Jiangli suddenly waved his hand, and astral energy surged out. A transparent wall of energy appeared in front of him, rumbling as it blocked the warrior's explosive attack. The soldier's body was unsteady, and he actually took 2 steps back. Such a powerful innate chi. These investigators were all shocked. They were also experts, so they could naturally see that Zhongli had casually waved his hand, causing the air in the room to surge violently and condense together. Everyone felt suffocated. "I'm not that easy to bully," Zhongli said slowly. "If you want to investigate, then investigate. Don't make me look like a criminal. A student with a vitality of 4. 8. I'm standing here talking to you. If you still want to insult me, then I won't be polite anymore." "What? Vitality 4. 8. The white-armored warrior who was about to attack stopped. Cosmic Star University's freshmen generally had vitality between 2 and 3. 4. 8 was considered outstanding among the older students. Before they came, they had already investigated Zhongli's background, and it was absolutely not that high. But seeing how the other side moved slightly, everyone was shocked. It was very likely that what he said was true. "Okay, you come with us. No need to wear shackles." A warrior put away the shackles. "I hope you can cooperate with our investigation. Let's go." Another warrior gave a look to his companions and stepped forward to clear the way. 4 warriors, 2 at the front and 2 at the back, sandwiched Zhongli in the middle and boarded a flying car outside. The flying car flew in this human base, and after more than 10 minutes, it stopped in front of a heavily guarded building. The 4 got off again, escorted Zhongli in the middle, and went upstairs to a huge interrogation room. The interrogation room was empty, and there was a square table in front of it. Several people sat in front of the square table. Zhongli's heart skipped a beat when he noticed that one of them was Song Shuren. There were also a few mentors that he didn't know, but they all had a serious face, coldly staring at him, seemingly quite hostile. Especially Song Shuren. He had a feeling that he wanted to die. In the middle of the interrogation room, there was a large chair, which was the interrogation chair for the prisoner to sit on. Zhongli also knew the rules of Cosmic Star University. Any prisoner who committed a crime must sit on it. Once sitting on it, the prisoner's whole body would be tied up, and the interrogator could manipulate the chair to perform all kinds of torture, such as electric current, fire, acupuncture, injection. This was the interrogation room for serious criminals. "Report. The suspect has been brought here," a warrior said fiercely. "Oh, here? Why isn't there any shackles? This is against our interrogation procedure. Is the suspect resisting?" Several mentors in charge of the interrogation, especially the old man Song Shuren, swept their eyes over, very sharp. Yes, the suspect resisted violently, only willing to be questioned, not shackled. The warrior reported. "Escort him to the interrogation chair, record his resistance, and punish him for both crimes." Song Shuren waved his hand. "Yes." The 4 warriors once again surrounded him. "Wait." Zhongli stood still. "I'm here to be interrogated and cooperate with your investigation. Why do I look like a prisoner? What crime did I commit? Do I need to sit on the interrogation chair?" "Young man, know your place." A mentor knocked on the table and took out a document. "Your crimes are very serious. Colluding with extraterrestrials, persecuting students. Someone reported you, and we have done a lot of speculation before coming here to interrogate you. You need to understand your crimes." What a joke. In that instant, Zhongli knew that someone was trying to frame him. In Cosmic Star University, he had enemies. The first was the Jiang family. The second was mentor Gui Junzi and Meng Xingyun. And the third was Song Shuren and that scum student LV. I saved someone. This is a merit, but not only did the university not reward me, they even framed me for colluding with extraterrestrials and persecuting students. Where's the evidence? Bang! Song Shuren slammed the table. "Shut up. We have conclusive evidence. You can't deny it. Brother Jiang, let him know what evidence is." "That's fine too. Let's first list out the evidence of his crimes so that he'll be convinced. That way, he won't say that we didn't teach him a lesson." The most profound instructor turned on his photon computer. Immediately, many words and pictures appeared. This instructor was addressed as Brother Jiang by Song Shuren. This caused Jiang Li's heart to tremble. He's from the Jiang clan. The mentor surnamed Jiang didn't look at Jiang Li at all, instead starting to list out the crimes. First, your mentor Hong Heiyu colluded with the powerful native Chun Tianshu, even calling him his father-in-law. This makes you the first suspect. Second, the native Niao Wanxiong is Chun Tianshu's last disciple. Chun Tianshu used a supreme divine ability to plant a holy embryo in his body. Such a powerful force is impossible to rescue. Third, many of our mentors know this is a conspiracy, so we didn't rescue him because we wanted to lure the snake out of its hole to see if there are any traitors in Cosmic Star University. Any traitor will definitely rescue them, conspire with the enemy, and win our trust. Fourth, Chun Tianshu condensed a holy embryo in Niao Wanxiong's body. He will be monitoring every move. We have no confidence in rescuing them. So why did you rescue them? Chun Tianshu didn't do anything. Fifth, after rescuing LV Jean, why did you hypnotize him? Is it because he killed extraterrestrials and you are one of them, so you hate him and want to destroy his spiritual cultivation? The 5 crimes were all clear, accusing and framing Jiang Li, wanting him to fall into the abyss of eternal damnation. Do you have anything else to refute? If not, then sit in the interrogation chair and confess your crimes in detail, and we will give you a lenient sentence. The mentor, surnamed Jiang, finished reading out the crimes and leaned back in his chair, looking calm and composed, as if he was certain of Jiang Li's crimes. What's your name? Jiang Li asked. Jiang Hailong. The mentor's face darkened when he heard Jiang Li's bad tone, but he still answered. This was a necessary procedure for the trial, and he didn't want to be caught. So, it's the high generation of the Sun and Moon Corporation's Jiang family. Looks like you want to use your power to take revenge. Jiang Li smiled. First, you have to ask my mentor Hong Heiyu. Do you have the ability to send him here to talk? Second, I have a magic treasure that my mentor gave me. It's nothing to destroy Niao Wanxiong's holy embryo and rescue his disciple. But now that the magic treasure has been returned to my mentor, you still have to ask my mentor to come and confront him. Third, you didn't rescue him, but you blame me for saving him. That's ridiculous. Fourth, you have to ask Chun Tianshu why he didn't come out. How would I know? I'm only responsible for saving people. Fifth, LV Jean is a scum. He attacked me first, so I got off lightly by hypnotizing him. One by one, Jiang Li refuted the 5 accusations cleanly. How dare you? How dare you quibble? Song Shuren slammed the table. Put him on the interrogation chair. Let's see if he can still quibble. Boom! A warrior immediately pounced. Get out! Jiang Li didn't move and only said 3 words. The warrior froze for a moment and stopped moving completely. His body rolled on the ground with a thud. Hypnosis! The other warrior was shocked. How dare you hypnotize us? You get out too. Jiang Li didn't even look and pointed. This soldier also copied the previous one and rolled out with a thud. Roar! 2 more warriors suddenly pounced. However, there was a flash of sword light. All of their power was gone. They stopped not too far away from Jiang Li. The mecha on their bodies broke into pieces and fell to the ground. The hard white mecha was cut open like tofu. The place where the engine's power source was cut was the critical point. Jiang Li had only used 1 flying sword. If he used all 5 of them, the 2 warriors in front of him would have been turned into mincemeat. In the blink of an eye, they would have been sliced into pieces. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.